What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What's up, Fantasy Points? This is week 4 of Outside the Box. I am back with Fantasy Points CEO and master of dank stats, Scott Barrett. We're going to be going position by position through the week 4 slate on DraftKings, starting with the quarterbacks. We'll go through running backs, receivers, tight ends. At the end, we will build some lineups as well. Excited to be doing the show once again with my friend Scott Barrett. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Excited to be here. Happy to talk ball with you as always.
While you're coming, please do like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Really fast growing YouTube channel here at Fantasy Points, but a lot of great content out every week. Still more people should be subscribed than are currently. And if you want to sign up at Fantasy Points, you can use promo code OTB15 or the little box down below me. You can use that, scan that to sign up to get 15% off on any product at Fantasy Points. Highly recommend it if you have time. Obviously, check out the data suite. I use it throughout the week a ton. A lot of valuable data there. If you don't have the time, like I do, to dig into the stats, you can also just sign up for the content where they're using the stats to give you the best possible content. Highly recommend that. Also wanted to note we have a new thing going on starting this week, Scott, where the person who wins the most money from plays from this show. So if you
one
get
lineup, right?
Most money from one lineup. Yeah, I think that's the rule, not most money overall. Most money from one lineup using the plays from this show. Give us a shout out on social media to myself. I'm at PlayerQDFS. Scott, he is at Scott Barrett DFB and at Fantasy Points. The Fantasy Points main handle, I think it's PTS. Give us a shout out with a screenshot. Person who wins the most money can win anything they want from the Fantasy Points store. Did I get that right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, now you just boxed me into saying yes, but like we have a sweatshirt that's like $90 and everything else is like 25. So I think everyone's gonna get that sweatshirt. And you know, Trey and I, our producer, we just talked about doing like a special gold t-shirt for if you get like 30K or more on a score. But maybe next year. Yeah, so do that. Just tag Neil, myself, and at Fantasy Points with a lineup, built around the recommendations you got in the show. Yeah, it's been a really successful past few weeks. So hopefully we'll carry that through to week 4 and see a lot of screenshots this week.
It's funny you bring up that sweatshirt. I don't even remember the sweatshirt. I went through the Fantasy Points store when Scott offered to send me some swag. Didn't even consider buying a sweatshirt. I just went for the hat, which is my favorite hat. Obviously, I've got my own hats now that I love as well, but love the Fantasy Points hat. And then I went for the little what do you call it? Wife beater is probably not the way to say it, but the tank top. I got the Fantasy Points tank top that I love. A lot of other stuff, but didn't even think about going for a sweatshirt. Maybe that was a mistake on my part. All right, so yeah, Debro wants a Scott Barrett fathead. Yeah, I want a Scott Barrett fathead. That'd be cool.
I miss my fat. I don't know.
Maybe some idea. Wait, do you actually have one of yourself?
Yeah. So John recommended I get a fat head of myself and put it in the background because it was kind of barren. So I ordered this fat head of me in a cowboy hat, which became a meme in our company Discord and on social. And I expected it to be like this big, and it ended up being this big, which is like even funnier. And so funny. It was behind me for, I don't know, several years. But my wife was sick of it, so she took it down.
Sad. Well, if I get one, I'll keep it behind me. All right, we're going to be going position
we're supposed to recap last week.
Oh, what happened last week? I don't even want to. Oh, I liked the Falcons so much last week. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about last week. Yeah.
It was another profitable week for me, even though it was the second consecutive week where all my defenses scored negative points and everyone else's defenses smashed. So I actually usually I just outsource this to Johnny, who's like the defense goat, and I spend zero time literally. But I spent 6 minutes this week because I'm just so sick of that. Defense is killing me, but did make money. Everyone wants to know what the special super secret stack was last week. It was Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams without Matthew Stafford, because since he won the Super Bowl, Stafford's scored more than 21 DraftKings fantasy points only twice, something like that. And so it was those two receivers with Jalen Hurts or Marcus Mariota AJ Brown on the bring back. So that did pretty well, even with my negative scoring defenses. But yeah, that's going to be one of my conviction plays just about every week. It's kind of finally catching ownership. But we love this Sean McVay offense because it produces league winners at an inordinately high rate. This was the anatomy of a league winner, Ryan Heath's analysis. Really one of the big takeaways from this offseason to me was, analyzing these play callers and just how far ahead of the pack Sean McVay is versus everyone else from a fantasy perspective. And so this year, the offense is better because you take out Cooper Kupp, who's washed, and you slide in Devontae Adams, who's not washed. And then it's not just that, but it's also so much more concentrated. Those two receivers have been combining for a 66 to 75% first read target share every single week. And so that's just great for fantasy goodness. And I really think those two, like typically wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 might be a little negatively correlated. I think they're actually very positively correlated. So yeah, last week it was those two receivers, Marcus Mariota, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown. I did have a bunch of Saquon instead of AJ Brown in some of those lineups, but obviously the AJ Brown lineups did pretty well.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. We got the Colts this week. Maybe we can do it again. I guess we'll talk about that.
It's just, people are on it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more popular now. Yeah, that one, wow, especially if you had the Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, that game that went pretty well for you last week. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Mariota did really well too.
Oh yeah.
Although Caleb, well, maybe at value, I don't know, but Caleb was certainly the top scorer in the week.
Yeah. I'd say the thing that I got the most right last week was I thought the Cowboys Bears game was actually going under owned, but it was still overall I played more of the Dak side of that. So like even that,
me too.
So it was like I got it like the game environment was like, yeah, correct that it was under owned, but
I was gonna say too. I think Adams would have done way better. I wasn't expecting that Quinyon Mitchell shadow. He also picked up a hamstring injury, but and it's also like every time I play the Rams for some reason, they always kick like 19 field goals, which drives me crazy. But you can go back to it again this week. I think that's really one of the best game environments. But I guess that's what people want. They want us to get into all that. So
yeah, we'll get into that. And other note was I just played a ton of the Falcons last week, and that just went so. I've never seen such a thing go so.
Oh, that
I kind of thought like there's no way they can all fail. It's either going to be Bijan Robinson's going to be awesome, or the passing game is going to be awesome, or they're all going to be awesome. Did not consider 0 points for the Falcons against the Panthers.
Well, remember we used to give survivor picks away. That I wonder how many people just dead from that game because they were super massive favorites.
Yeah. That was brutal. But anyway, we will onward and upward. We'll talk about obviously those same teams once again, whether it was the defense, whether it was the offense, whatever. But we're going to start at quarterback here. We always start with the chalkiest plays and kind of dissect them a little bit. We don't have any major chalkier. The first two, both from that Vegas Chicago game, Geno Smith at 12% ownership, Caleb Williams at 10% ownership. Now it's usually the Bears defense that we want to be attacking. But Vegas, I think, also a beatable defense here. What are you doing with Geno Smith and Caleb Williams?
Yeah, so I think this makes a ton of sense. Really two awful defenses. The Las Vegas Raiders are giving up the most fantasy points per dropback of any defense on the main slate. Bottom 6 in yards per attempt allowed, bottom 7 in pressure rate. That's really big for Geno, who's historically been one of the more pressure sensitive quarterbacks. It's been much worse this year because that Raiders offensive line is pretty awful. All of his stacking partners are cheap. Really high implied point total for the Raiders. I don't know that we'll see it this high again for a while. Caleb Williams, I like a little bit more, and me, like I'm really very critical of Caleb Williams. But the Raiders are an extreme pass funnel. They're a top 6 matchup for a quarterback. Caleb, I've been super critical of him and I'm still super critical of him. It doesn't feel right to chase this right after he faced the Cowboys, which Brett Whitefield, our film expert, was like, this might be the second worst defense I've seen in 12 years. He wasn't exaggerating. It was like, literally, that's how bad he looked. Caleb had 3 touchdowns and 160 yards on busted coverage. And so like, it feels so like, oh yeah, we're everyone's going to Caleb after the Cowboys, but like that might have just been the Cowboys. Yeah, but it's also like the guy is top 5 in fantasy points per dropback. He's top 6 in rushing yards per game, scramble yards per game, scramble rate. And he's not playing well. Like he's bottom 3 in catchable throw rate minus screens. He's bottom 3 in, a bunch of these other advanced stats that are more important, more sticky, but the fantasy points are still there. And that really just goes to show you that, well, Ben Johnson's a god, and, he can hit in the right matchups like Geno, especially when he's not pressured. The Raiders dead last in pressure rate last week. So really, really good spot for both of these quarterbacks. But because this is, where the bulk of the ownership is going to be, I'm going to personally go somewhere else with my own lineups. But yeah, I mean, this makes sense as the top 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think I will have a fair amount of Geno. I just need to see some kind of proof that the Bears defense can stop anybody before I just stop attacking the Bears every week. Geno's still relatively inexpensive. I think that there are ways to stack it up there that are not going to be extremely contrarian. So I think Geno I will still have a lot of. I don't know that I'll get to where the field is on Caleb, but also they're not so chalky that I feel the need to get completely away from. I can still play a fair amount and get to some other spots that I like. So Geno, I think I will actually be above weight to the field and just find some unique ways to stack it up. Caleb, I would anticipate I'll be a little bit underweight to the field. But then, yeah, like I said, we have some other pretty fun spots on this slate. The next one that I think we need to talk about is the Kansas City Baltimore game. Both teams in need of a win. This is a game that has a really high total. Kansas City, a little bit tough to know how you want to stack it up with Xavier Worthy returning. Baltimore, always a little bit tough. Like how much do you want to be stacking up Lamar Jackson? I feel like it's a game where there should be some fantasy goodness, but I don't know exactly where it's going to come from. What are you doing with Patrick Mahomes and or Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, these teams do not want to go 1-3. They're going to be playing this like it's a playoff game. And when that happens, so Josh Allen, right? What do I always say about Josh Allen is we only play him in spots where they need him to be Superman, or there's a chance they need him to be Superman, because when they need him to be Superman, he is Superman. He scores 40 plus fantasy. He puts the entire team in his back. He does crazy shit. That's so much fun to watch. And it's sort of something similar with these quarterbacks. We could start with Patrick Mahomes. And so what have you seen from him this season? It's like, obviously this receiving core is the worst he's ever played with. The offensive line is probably the worst he's ever played with. And what happens when that's the case is you run more. And like, that's been Mahomes all throughout his career. He doesn't run much during the regular season, but when it's the playoffs, when it's these must-win games, he runs and he's really good at it. You saw that in week 1, 6 carries, 57 rushing yards and a score. You saw that in week 2, 7 carries, 66 rushing yards and a score. You didn't see that last week, a pretty easy win against the Giants. But I think you're going to see that this week. Also, maybe this is the best his receiving core has been all season, because maybe we get Xavier Worthy back, even if he's limited to some degree. So he's in play. Ultimately not in my pool. I didn't write him up. And that's just because if you scroll down, you get to Lamar Jackson at lower ownership, like borderline insulting ownership. And so he's really one of my favorite. He's for sure my favorite pay up quarterback, but he's also one of my favorite quarterback plays of the slate. Like I said, with Josh Allen, the Bills needing him to be Superman, same thing with Jackson. And, terms of a ceiling from a quarterback, not many can come close to Jackson, or even just a baseline. He was the overall QB1 last year. He's the overall QB1 this year by a margin. He's exceeded 26 DK in all 3 games. He averages 29 against the Chiefs over his last, 3 years, whatever it is. And, this isn't a bad Chiefs defense, but it's certainly the worst that Chiefs defense I think Lamar has ever faced. By the advanced metrics, really not that great. So I like him quite a bit at contrarian ownership levels. That doesn't really make sense to me. Oh, are you on mute? Damn. Is that 2 weeks in a row and not once for me?
I see. It's because I've been trying more to, like, as I'm typing while we're doing the show, I'm trying not to have the audience hear that. So I've been muting more this year. I've never really muted in the past, and yeah, I'm. It's been a little bit of an adjustment. That is at least twice on the season so far. What I was saying is I've been sort of wavering on, like, how much Lamar do I want to get to, because I've thought, like, I can see this being a really good play, but I don't know exactly how much to get to. I think you've convinced me that I just need to be in on Lamar Jackson, get to double digits there. So I will tail you on playing some Lamar Jackson. Other quarterbacks that I have interest in. Well, first of all, are you going back to Jalen Hurts this week against the Buccaneers? He's also getting 5% ownership.
So if I can kind of spoil a running back play and a wide receiver play, I did give this quite a bit of thought. So obviously the offense looks rough. Kevin Patullo looks like one of the worst offensive play callers, about as bad as Brian Johnson from a number of years ago, if you guys remember that. And what is Jalen Hurts' kryptonite? As we all know, awful against the blitz. And who blitzes more than anyone else? It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they've really had his number. And so they can do a couple of different things here. I'm kind of worried they might just really grind the clock down and just shove Saquon Barkley down their throats the entire game and keep playing conservative. But there's some sort of Saquon Barkley came out after the game. AJ Brown came after the game and sort of threw the play caller under the bus. Like, you can't just, play as conservatively as you did in the first half. 3rd and 17, just run the ball. We're going to punt basically on a 3rd down. Do they come out more aggressive? Like, they really should. And so I really waffled with that. Like, which one do I lean into? I'm not going to play Jalen Hurts. But I do like either Saquon or AJ Brown. A lot of people on Twitter are saying Saquon's cooked. He had the 400 something touches last year. And he's just washed now, like 3.3 yards per carry. These aren't people I respect saying this. There are people on Twitter saying this. I don't know that I buy that. I just know that we've seen tremendous upside. So the stat I had in my article for Saquon Barkley was last year he exceeded 36 DraftKings fantasy points 5 different times. That was the 4th most by any running back in any season in NFL history. That is a slate-breaking score. That is a had-to-have-it score. And that is the upside I'm always going to chase. I'm always going to come in over the field. This is a pass funnel matchup on paper. This is a tough matchup for him. But just looking at that upside and looking at that ownership, that's enticing to me. His role, by the way, is even better now. I think even if Will Shipley's coming back, it does look a little bit better. And then AJ Brown, the stat I had on him was, so he's 6,400. He needs 25.6 DK to hit 4X value. He's hit that mark in 5 of his last 15 full games since the start of last season. That's 33% of the time. Like, if you can get that 33, that's an amazing GPP play. Low ownership, Tampa Bay pass funnel, squeaky wheel narrative a little bit. There's, kind of hints being dropped that he wants the ball. He's sick of, he likes winning, but he also likes 100-yard games. And so I like both of those guys. But that's about it from the Eagles side. Bucky Irving, I'm kind of into. Don't really like any of the pass catchers. Can Baker push them? He's so much fun. I love watching him play. He probably could. We've seen it last year when he was down Mike Evans, down Chris Godwin. He just turned Cade Otton into Jamar Chase. So to answer your question, I like AJ Brown or Saquon. Those are, especially for large field tournaments, those are guys I want to be overweight on, but not playing Jalen Hurts most likely. And Josh Allen too, just in case you ask me about Josh Allen. Like I said, I only play him ever in spots where he can be, the team might need him to be Superman, because that's the 40 burger weeks. Any other week, it's like 22, 23, and like that's it. There's just no sense of urgency to kind of take it easy. This might be the exception just because of Kellen Moore's frenzied pace of play. Really would bet a ton of money that the Saints this year are going to lead the league in combined points per game, probably points allowed. So like that's a flow chart for us is QB1 against the Saints, have exposure to every single week. Ultimately, Josh Allen wasn't in my write-up, wasn't in my pool, wasn't in the slate breakdown, but I think he's a fine Millie dart throw. Like I said, of the expensive guys, really think Lamar is kind of a tier ahead of Hurts and Josh Allen.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. I was curious if you were going to be playing any Josh Allen, given how much you like Lamar, but that makes sense. I am curious about your thoughts on Justin Herbert and the Chargers passing game. I think everybody's going to want to be playing Omar and Hampton this week. He's projected to get a lot of ownership with Najee Harris out. Is it possible that with Najee Harris out that they just pass even more on the Chargers? And it's not a bad spot against the Giants. What's your read on the Chargers passing game? You playing in Justin Herbert?
Yeah, so I want to say I love Justin Herbert. This is my Exodia runner-up this year. This is now, I think, the quarterback who should be the MVP favorite. Chargers rank second in P-Row this year, surprising just about everyone except for Debro, who's in chat right now. Giants defense looks pretty awful. They're giving up the third most passing yards per game allowed. They're giving up the most slot yards per game allowed. They're giving up the second most or bottom 4 yards per game allowed to perimeter wide receivers. And that's really where this passing attack is flowing through. Looks like he has 3 really good wide receivers. Ladd McConkey, we all know he's good at the game. Over his last 8 games of his rookie season, he averaged 106.7 yards per game. That is more than Justin Jefferson, more than Jamar Chase, more than Puka, more than Amon-Ra, more than Randy Moss. It's really just OBJ and Ladd over the past 50 years is the only guys who've done that. Still can play. We all know he has a great man ass. He ranks top 7 in average separation score against man coverage. And it's the perfect matchup on paper. Like I said, in the slot, 67% of the time, Giants giving up the most yards per game to slot wide receivers. They're also playing man coverage at a top 3 rate. All of Ladd McConkey's best games last year came against man coverage. Top 8 games against man, 104 yards per game. Other 9 games, 54 yards per game. So Ryan Heath loves Ladd McConkey ladders. This could be the get right spot. Our projections, like Keenan Allen even more, who, is like I said, all offseason, not washed, not cooked, is Justin Herbert's BFF, leading the team in targets. And then Quentin Johnson, like this is a real breakout. Like you have to just acknowledge that some guys get better and he looks like a completely different player. He just faced Patrick Surtain's shadow coverage, had a really healthy target share, had the most yards against Patrick Surtain's coverage that Surtain has given up in 2 years. And so according to our projections, Keenan and QJ are both top 12 values. According to Ryan Heath, Ladd is one of the best high upside GPP plays you can make at lower ownership. And so clearly there's value to Herbert stacks. I think we could worry about a rookie Jackson Dart's ability to push, but this Giants defense just might be that bad. And this might just be the Chargers identity. And like Omarion Hampton, he's a great play, but he's really looked awful on film. Even last week does not look anything like a player we were all very high on coming out of college. Really has struggled. So I think he's a good play. Wasn't one of my, I don't know, top 4 favorite plays, but certainly a good play. I think partly the reason is because, I only make a few lineups. An MME guy such as yourself, I could see having even higher.
Yeah, I would anticipate that I'm going to end up over the field at 8% ownership on Justin Herbert. I feel like you just laid out the bull case and then said but he's not one of my top 4 guys, which I guess there's a lot of quarterbacks that look like pretty strong plays here today. It's good and bad, I guess, in that you don't really know exactly how to stack up Herbert. Like you just laid out all three of the receivers, like reasons to play Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, and QJ.
Well, I didn't write any of these guys up in the slate breakdown. I think that's the part of the problem is like it's just hard for me to pick. And as someone who, 3 max or single entry, it's just hard to get there. But if you're an MME player, you just let the Sims figure it out.
Yeah, no, I think that I will be getting there. Actually, I played with the Sims earlier, and I was forcing my way onto more of the game because I think there's a lot of fun. Or we can talk about Gadsden when we get to tight ends. Also, just a lot of ways to potentially play the Chargers. We'll get there. We got a super chat, so I guess we'll take a season long question. Jimbo asks Tyquan Thornton or Wandale, PPR, Fields or Mariota. I don't know is Fields playing this week. I don't think we know that.
He is playing. I would go according to our projections. I would go with Wandale. I would play Mariota personally, but I can tell you what our projections say.
You got to keep in mind that Scott is just a huge fan of Wandale Robinson, though. So keep that in mind with the recommendation.
This is actually another very playable spot for him. Jackson Dart, what he does to the offense, spreading it out. I could see the Giants really trying to lean on that more than we saw with Russell Wilson. Plus the matchup looks really good for a Wandale. Not as good as the Dallas spot, which was like the ultimate, but playable. Not a recommended play for DFS, but I wouldn't yell at you when I would have yelled at you almost every other week.
Okay. Did you come? Is it Mariota or Fields for you?
Mariota 17.2 and Fields 19.1. Okay, so geez, yeah, our projections really like Justin Fields, but I'm going to make a really strong argument for Mariota a little later on.
Okay. I mean, you could do it right now since we're doing quarterbacks anyway. So if you want to, are you playing Mariota at 5,000 this week against Atlanta?
Yeah, absolutely. Mariota is an awesome play. If Terry McLaurin were healthy, I would potentially go all in. Like that's how strongly I feel about it. The problem is Terry McLaurin is out. Noah Brown is out. John Bates, their tight end 2, is out. And when that happens, like teams might just like throw their game plan out the window, just go really slow paced, really run heavy. But it also looks like they're going to be without Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, and which maybe counteracts that. If JCM plays, I like Mariota a little less. If he's out, I like Mariota a little more. But this was one of my favorite stats. So over the past 2 seasons, who do you think leads in fantasy points per dropback with over 70 dropbacks? Well, I think I just gave it away, but number 4 is Josh Allen. Number 3 is Jalen Hurts. Number 2 is Lamar Jackson. Number 1 is Marcus Mariota. This was a stat that Jake Tribby had is, in Mariota's 3 games with at least 15 pass attempts, under Cliff Kingsbury, he averages 23 fantasy points per game. But like part of that is like, okay, he played 4 quarters, 1.5, 2 quarters. So if you look at it by a drive basis, a drop back basis, a quarter basis, or per 4 quarters, he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy. And so maybe we can't really bank on that, but it's like, it's so strong. And you're talking about 5K, 4%. I think he's a really good play, even with these receiver injuries. Some people could even make and I haven't heard anyone talk about him at all. You could even make the argument that this now condenses things even further. We see like a vintage 9 target, 3 carry, 1 inside the goal line carry, Deebo Samuel game. So maybe it makes them easier to stack, but yeah, 5K, 4%. I like Mariota a lot more than everyone else. I don't know, probably not a lock or anything like that, but certainly more than everyone else.
Yeah, somebody honestly I have not considered at all at this point. I'll definitely have to think about it. At 5,000, you made some good points. He'll probably make my player pool. I don't know that I'll get to more than like this 4%, but yeah, I like the bull case you made. I guess I'll need to get in a little bit more than I am currently. So again, I played a ton of Michael Penix.
Neil,
revenge game. Oh, I didn't even think about the revenge
means
game.
Anything to you?
That means a lot to me, Scott. That's all I think about is revenge games. Drake May playing against Carolina. So again, I played all the Michael Penix last week. Now I'm I'm a little bit gun shy. I think everybody's a little bit gun shy, but is that just because Penix is that bad? Like, is Drake May just going to eat here? This is your actual Exodia quarterback. Are you playing Drake May against Carolina?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think I'm actually really surprised by 8%. Can you sort by fantasy points per dollar? I want to see where he ended up in Chris's projections.
Number 2.
Yeah, look at that. So he's a great play. He's running more over the last 2 weeks, 8.5 carries per game, 23.8 DraftKings fantasy points per game. The implied point total is the highest of May's career, 7th highest in the slate, which is like crazy for the Patriots. So yeah, he's yet another good play on this slate. You stack him up with Hunter Henry, and yeah, that's nice.
Is Hunter Henry just the only way you stack him up these days?
I think so personally. Yeah,
that seems right just from what we've seen.
But Henry's been awesome. He's priced as like the tight end 9, and he's top 3 in XFP per game, top 3 in fantasy points per game. So, yeah, I had some May Hunter Henry lineups that did really well last week.
Yeah. Well, we just sorted by fantasy points per dollar. The top was Jackson Dart at 4,500. You playing any Dart against the Chargers?
Yeah, he's a sick play. He's awesome. This was Brett Whitefield's QB1 in the 2025 NFL draft. He had him over Cam Ward. This is a player who there's been like sick hype on him ever since the Giants took him, where like he's really shocked them, the team, the beat writers, the coaches in training camp. And like, I'm not making this comparison, but the last time I remember it kind of being this like surprisingly extreme was Patrick Mahomes, where, you know, they traded away Alex Smith heading into his sophomore season. And the GM was like, dude, I'll just watch him at training camp. And like my jaw just involuntarily drops, and he makes throws I've never seen anyone make. He's not that level. He's a little bit limited athletically, but just what I've heard coming out of Giants camp has been pretty crazy. So I like that. You know, I trust Brett a ton. The other thing is he runs a lot. So May was my Exodia quarterback over a Justin Herbert because of the rushing upside that I saw. May averaged in his final season at North Carolina 48.5 rushing yards per game. Dart, 3 seasons at Ole Miss, averaged 49.1 rushing yards per game. As bad as things have been with the Giants over the last 2 seasons, their quarterback still averaged 17.7 fantasy points per game. That's basically 4x Dart salary. So he's a really strong value, and just like a player I like and a player I want to have exposure to.
Yeah, get ahead of it before the rest of the field is playing all the Jackson. I like if this were a better matchup.
Is
I feel
that
like
5% you're showing?
Yeah, 5%.
See, I would have guessed like 11.
It could be just the matchup holding him back, and I guess just we haven't seen it yet. I don't know, but I mean
matchup's not great, but 4,500 runs.
Yeah, 4,500.
And
we can start if he is Mahomes.
So I love Mariota. Mariota's did really well for me last week, but Dart is a way better play. Why?
Wow.
Because in my articles this offseason, I said I cannot wait for Jackson Dart to start and to go all in his first NFL start. So YOLO. I'm going to flip it. Yeah, Jackson Dart over Mariota.
Look at that. He was all in on Mariota. Now he's just switching it all to Jackson Dart. Love to see it. Let's get ahead of the field on Jackson Dart. All right. Other quarterbacks. I guess I'll throw out the grossest one first. Michael Penix going against his Commanders. I mean, they gave up 3 touchdowns to Trey Tucker. They gave up enough to Tucker Kraft that everybody was like, is this guy the tight end 1? Is this just a really bad Commanders defense? Is it bad enough that even Michael Penix can succeed against them? What do you think of Penix?
I have no interest. Not in play for me at all. Maybe this is an overreaction to like an awful game. But I just think this offense is broken. I think Zach Robinson, my former colleague at PFF, is actually doing a pretty bad job. Or maybe this is just, Michael Penix's own limitations, but they're running out of pistol 3 times more than any other offense. It's like 40% of their dropbacks. When they're in pistol, they go it's a run play like 95% of the time. And when they're in shotgun, it's a pass play like 90% of the time. And so that just like defenses just know what you're doing. So it really holds you back. Dan Orlovsky talked about this. Some other big account former quarterback talked about this.
Kurt Warner, maybe.
And like, even who do you stack him with? Like, just Drake London's looked awful. Darnell Mooney out targeting him, more first read targets, more end zone targets since he came back. And I don't even think Mooney's healthy. So yeah, just not in play for me.
All right. Because I always think I'm going to play some Mooney as well. I think I still probably will, just because the defense has been so bad and nobody's going to want to play it because it's so gross, but not going to go all in like I did last week, obviously.
You went all in?
No, I didn't really go all in, because again, I was really in on the Cowboys, sort of luckily, the Cowboys game, except that I played a lot of CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott.
That's
so I was kind of on a lot of the wrong side of it also. So yeah, not all in, but enough that it obviously hurt my bankroll, but I'll be less in than it was last week. Other quarterbacks that I want your thoughts on. I mean, Daniel Jones, is he just legit at this point? Is he underpriced at 5,600?
Yeah, I think so. Like I love Daniel Jones. That was another quarterback I felt like I was higher on than everyone else, just because you look at what happened when he was with the Giants. It was literally a bottom 3 offensive line by PFF pass block rate and a bottom 3 receiving core every single year he was with the New York Giants. And we remember what happened when Saquon left the Giants. You just can't, you can't gauge who a player is when the environment is that poor. And he runs. One of my favorite stats was he has exactly as many games with 90 plus rushing yards as Mike Vick and Cam Newton. And you just look at what he's doing this year, 24 DraftKings fantasy points per game, top 3 in EPA per play. This is the best game environment of the slate. He's really easy to stack. He's due for a regression. The offense is due for a massive regression. But like, this looks awesome. Yeah. And by the way, like, I love Jonathan Taylor this week, but like, who is getting all the carries inside the 5? I think Daniel Jones is like 3rd among all players. But love Puka Nacua. We talked about this. Love Devontae Adams. Tyler Warren's a good value. Michael Pittman, I've always questioned his upside, but strong value. So Daniel Jones in play.
Okay. I think there's only one other quarterback I think that I'm seriously thinking about playing a lot of. Maybe somebody's asking about Jared Goff, but first I want to the same that you're only thinking of one other.
Yeah.
Is it Brock Purdy?
Oh, you know what? Fair play. There's 2. I forget about Brock Purdy. He's a borderline cash play on FanDuel. He's so much cheaper over there. But yeah, Purdy's a guy I always like. Like, really, I feel like team Brock, really feel that way. He's made us a lot of money over the years. He scored over 25 DraftKings fantasy points in 5 of his last 8 games with an implied point total of 23 or higher. A number of those games without Christian McCaffrey, without Debo, without Ayuk, without the left tackle. And unfortunately, that's still another concern this week, because it looks like Juwan Jennings is going to be out. Ricky Pearsall is going to play. Demarcus Robinson's back. But I mean, maybe that just further concentrates the offense. Just stack it up with CMC and Pearsall, who, once Jennings is ruled out, Pearsall might be the top value in our projections. And actually Demarcus Robinson might be top 6, or I think he will be top 6. So maybe that's a nice, easy, cheap stack, a way to get unique exposure to Christian McCaffrey. I will just say though, so I have two dream takes. One is I'm actually like not as bullish on Cam Scatterbu this week, who is really one of my guys. Like, I was jumping up on and down on tables for all offseason as like, this guy is mispriced by 4 rounds. I love Cam Scatterbu, but now he's chalk. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, does he really have bury you upside? And that's how I was feeling. And that's how I was coming into this week's show. But my dream last night was that he went nuclear. And so like, I feel like my subconscious might know something I don't. So now, I don't know, you have to tell me, but the other dream take was heading into week 1. My wife woke me up at like 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning. And she was like, Jaguars defense. I'm like, what? She was like, you kept mumbling something about Jaguars defense in your sleep. They've been like they've been sneaky good Jaguars defense. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Sneaky good Jaguars defense, but no, yeah, Brock Purdy's a strong play.
I did not realize that Jawan Jennings is expected to miss this game. I guess I'm seeing the Jeff Mueller saying that he's maybe closer to doubtful, while
yeah, that was a great tweet. Shout out Jeff. Jeff's a great follow.
Yeah, so part of my love for playing some Purdy was those two receivers against Jacksonville absolutely smashing to the same level as receivers against Dallas. So I think, Purdy just funneling to Pearsall and Jennings would be pretty awesome. If Jennings is out, it makes me like it just a little bit less, but still quite.
It might make me like it more on it.
Really? Would you play any DeMarcus Robinson or anybody else?
Yeah, I like D-Rob. Okay. But I mean, also Christian McCaffrey's amazing. And then, like I said, Pearsall might be the best value on the slate if that happens. So
fair. People in chat asking about Jared Goff. Is he somebody you're interested in?
Yeah. That's another guy, just because what's the ownership on him?
1%.
Yeah. Isn't it? So I feel like it's deja vu from week 2, where he made us a ton of money, where it was basically the same thesis. It's, okay, we all know you only play Jared Goff at home. He's home this week. Oh, what's the implied point total? Oh, it's second best on the entire slate. And it's a Cleveland Browns pass funnel and no one wants to play him. This is weird. And so he's just a great GPP play. He's always tough to stack, but I think I have a good lean here.
Okay. I guess we can get there when we get to other positions. Was there anybody else? Was he the last one that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to running backs.
Actually, could we mix it up this week? I have, so from like consuming some content around the industry, 2 things I feel more strongly than anyone else is, I think this is an amazing tight end week. I think this is one of the best tight end weeks I can ever remember. And I think this could be a tight end in the flex on the winning Millie lineup week. The other take is there are some amazing wide receiver punts I really love that no one else is talking about. Could we mix it up and do tight ends and then go running back and wide receiver?
That is hilarious that you want to do tight ends next. I will say I was running the Sims earlier and actually got to several tight end in the flex lineups using the Sims. So at least the Run the Sims team seems to be in on double tight end also. But yeah, let's go straight to tight ends, and we will go starting with the chalk. We have Hunter Henry at 15%, Tyler Warren 14%, Brock Bowers at 12%. Let's just start with those 3 general thoughts. Are you bullish on all of them? Tell me your thoughts.
So I wouldn't love tight end as much if I just loved the chalk. I like the lesser owned guys, but let's start with this and go in reverse order. Brock Bowers is actually like a really good value on FanDuel. I don't hate him over there. I have zero interest on DraftKings. It's just like, you look at the numbers and you watch the tape. He's just not right. He's wearing this bulky knee brace. So we are not going to play him until that knee brace is off. And so he's going to wear it this week. That's been confirmed. So zero interest in Brock Bowers. Tyler Warren, I think, is a strong play. He's had a 20% target share every single week. Trey McBride's the only other tight end to do that. Only like 10 other wide receivers. He's exceeded 75 receiving yards in 2 of 3 games. I think there's a really good chance he's this year's Brock Bowers, which is like something I never thought I'd say in a million years, which just means like, yeah, he could be 2,200 more in week 12. Right. So I think he's a good play. He's not my favorite play, but he's for sure up there. Hunter Henry as well, a really good play. He has a good schematic matchup. The Panthers run a top 3 rate of zone coverage. We know Henry's kind of like the number 1 receiver there, but against zone, it becomes even more exaggerated. So it's a really good schematic matchup. But mostly he's just priced as the tight end 9. He's the tight end 3 by XFP per game, tight end 3 by fantasy points per game. He's a good play. Not my favorite play, but he's a very good play. Tight end 4, Juwan Johnson, I think is an awesome play. We talk about Kellen Moore's frenzied pace of play. So there's a ton of fantasy goodness. I know Spencer Rattler sucks, but even if we're talking about, so like he's going to crush an XFP all year, but even beyond that, there's going to be real fantasy points. Like I promise. And there has been to date. Juwan leads all flex eligible players in snaps per game by a pretty good margin. He's on the field more than anyone else. The XFP has been there. He ranks second among all tight ends in XFP per game and fantasy points per game, but it's also like mid-range wide receiver 2 numbers. I know, maybe the upside's not crazy just because of the low implied point total, but I do like Juwan, but he's still not my favorite. Did we get word that Loveland's out?
We did, or expected to be out, maybe something along those lines. So yeah. So
Komet 3K is pretty good. Not my favorite. He's already at a 70% route share, so I don't think it's going to climb too much. And it's also like Caleb has never targeted tight ends throughout his career. I think it's because he's a slow processor. He can't really get that far into his progression to like get to the tight end. But you do have Ben Johnson talking about really wanting to get the tight ends more involved. But like I said, not my favorite. Zach Ertz is another guy worth talking about just because there's all these injuries. Terry McLaurin's out, Noah Brown's out, John Bates is out. Mariota really has kind of targeted Ertz at like the same level of target share as Jaden Daniels. And even with Jaden Daniels out, this is still a fairly high implied point total. He's fine. He's good. He's another one. Not my favorite.
I feel like I know where you're going, but
all right. I have 3 guys I love.
Okay. Well,
do you want to guess?
My guess, just based on like your some of your previous statements, like I think I know how to stack up Jared Goff this week. And then you want to jump right to tight end. And so I'm like, okay, I've given zero thought to Sam Laporta this week, but that is my guess that you love Sam Laporta. Is that correct?
Yeah. What's his ownership showing?
5%.
Love it. So this is a player, Ryan and Heath and I want to ladder. We want to ladder the F out of Sam Laporta. Why? Because as everyone knows, he's the king of cover 1. He sees a 55% boost to his yards per route run against cover 1 throughout his career. That's top 7 of any player. His yards per route run throughout his career against cover 1 is 2.83, something like that. That's easily most of any tight end. That is, I think, 8th most of any wide receiver. And you look at the wide receivers above him on that list, it's really just all the best ones. It's AJ Brown, it's Justin Jefferson, it's Tyreek Hill. And so he has that. He's easily best on the team by targets per route run, yards per route run, whatever. The Browns, they play cover 1 on 40% of their snaps. That's easily highest in the league. That's double the league average rate. And so we always circle cover 1 heavy matchups for Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta goes to his calendar, always circles these cover 1 heavy matchups. And the guy's good. Like he's just good at ball. People kind of wrote him off, but that was just, he came into the season hurt. He was hurt all of August. And then week 2 or week 3, he picked up an ankle injury on top of that. But since week 14 of last season, he averages 58 yards per game. He's cleared 50 in 6 of his last 9. So this is a player I like to ladder for prop bets, but for DFS, I do like Sam Laporta quite a bit. And then there's 2 cheap guys I think are like amazing plays, like best punts we've had all season.
Is Brenton Strange one of them?
Yeah, so Brenton Strange is for sure one of them. He's way too cheap. He's also like maybe he has a favorable schematic matchup. He's also currently 10th at the position in yards per game. More impressively, he's led the Jaguars in receiving yards in 2 of 3 games this year. He might be the team's number one receiver. And I was talking to our film charters about this. I trashed Trevor Lawrence on Twitter this week, and it got a bunch of retweets and a bunch of angry Jaguars fans, where I was talking about how every season of his career, he's locked onto his first read, the league's highest rate. He's a slow processor. He just stares guys down, throws hospital balls, whatever. And I was talking to the charters, and they're like, yeah, what he really needs, honestly, because I don't think you can fix him because he's been the same guy since his rookie season, is he just needs like an Evan Ingram and a Christian Kirk, guys who aren't necessarily winning routes and beating defenders, but are just like open immediately, with like within the first 1.9 seconds of the drop back. And that's Brenton Strange. And so worst passer rating when targeting his first read, when targeting BTJ and Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence has like a 13 passer rating. So why not target Brenton Strange a little bit more? Okay. But then I have my Galaxy brain play, a tight end who's even cheaper, who I think I like even more, who no one's talking about.
Is it Aronde Gadsden?
No, I love Aronde. That was really one of my guys in the draft process. But at the end of the day, with Will Dissly out, he ran 15 routes, and he's still like at best, I think, the number 4 receiver on the team. It's Tommy Tremble.
Yeah, no Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah, and so there was this weird thing last year, and Xavier Legette's also out, by the way. But there was this weird thing last year where whenever Tremble was out, Jatavian Sanders would be a bell cow tight end, and whenever Sanders was out, Tremble would be a bell cow tight end. So in the one game Sanders missed last year, Tremble caught 5 of 8 targets for 77 yards on a 98% route share. In the 4 games Tremble missed, Sanders averaged 11 fantasy points per game with a 19% target share. And I don't know how real this is, just because, when they were both healthy, like they combined, like adding them together, they combined for just like 3 targets and like 4 fantasy points per game. But for some reason, whenever one or the other was out, they were producing like a mid-range tight end 1 for fantasy. And so just 2%, I think he's a good guy to mix into. And when you're talking about a tight end this cheap, it's also, he's not a lock button. That's what J. Cole says. You never want to do that with tight ends. Please do not ever do that. I've made that mistake a million times. It's just one of the most volatile positions, like a defense, where you really do want to spread ownership out. So don't lock him in. But part of the benefit with a Tremble is when you go all the way down to tight end, it allows you to pay up for some of the more meaningful positions that score more points. And it also gives you a more unique roster construction. But so Laporta and Tremble are 2 guys I haven't heard anyone talk about. I feel pretty good about.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Neither are guys that I've given a ton of thought to, but I will start doing so. So the one thing that I am disappointed to hear you say about tight ends is I really am ready to just like play a ton of Brock Bowers in this matchup, just because the Bears defense is so bad. I guess I am making the assumption that he's getting healthier, but you really think that it's like when the knee brace comes off, that's when you're willing to start playing him? Like do you think the knee brace itself is holding him back, or it's just an indication that his knee is not healthy yet?
Yeah, it's both. And also Ted Wynn, who's a writer for The Athletic, he covers the Raiders. Definitely follow him. I think he's really one of the best analysts, journalists covering the sport, like elite ball knower. But he had a bunch of tweets that were just like videos of Brock Bowers. He just does not look like Brock Bowers. He looks like Tommy Tremble. But another thing is, like, Johnny and I have talked about this for years with Pete Carroll, is like, and coach speaking next too, where he's such an injury optimist, where it's like, oh, we should get him back next week. And then this guy's out for 9 more weeks. And then Tyler Lockett, all throughout his career, would play through anything. And Pete Carroll was like, oh, he's fine. He would play through anything, but he would just suck. He would just not do anything. And so we learned that lesson the hard way through Tyler Lockett. And I think the same thing is going on with Bowers, where and I talked to injury experts. I talked to Jeff, who we just referenced, who a couple of weeks back was like, yeah, I don't know that he's going to be 100% until October. And then who was it? Dr. Chow I watched his video, said he was surprised that Bauer could even play weeks 2 and 3. So just not, I don't play guys I think are hurt, and I think he's hurt.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just like a personal rule. You can be more aggressive on that. Like even like 80% Bowers is still better than 100% David Njoku.
Well, especially in the matchup with the Bears, like that's the thing that's pushed me towards him. Is just like it's such a good matchup that if you can just like think that he's a little bit healthier than he was last week, and now he gets the Bears. I don't know, but I've been watching. He doesn't look good. Like I agree, he doesn't look healthy out there. I'm just hoping, I guess, that he is getting closer to full health. Anybody else you playing any like Kelsey or Andrews? Anybody else you want to talk about?
No, but there's a general unspoken rule here that whenever we talk about tight ends, you should. It's great to stack your quarterback up with the tight end for extra correlation and upside.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do an Andrews on a Lamar lineup or a Kelsey on a Mahomes lineup. Never going to fault someone for doing that, even if it's like an awful tight end. But just for one-offs, not into those guys.
Okay. I guess the two others that I've been sort of interested in are Kyle Pitts. Again, that matchup with Washington. He's 3,600. He was apparently hurt coming into the week last week. I think that.
Interesting. Because I like that spot for him
against Washington. Yeah, I mean, we saw Tucker Kraft absolutely destroy the Commanders, and he's 3,600, and he's been looked better this year than he has in the past. So if Michael Penix is just fine, I think Kyle Pitts is in a really good spot here. And then I don't know, David Njoku, just with the assumption that we're going to see a lot of pressure on Flacco, maybe just kind of the safety valve to Njoku is kind of a thought of mine. I feel like I should keep talking as Scott is coughing there. I don't know if you found that take so funny. He thinks that David Njoku is such a funny idea that he was just like, I caught him off guard. He's laughing.
David Njoku. Oh my God. What an idiot. No, it went down the wrong pipe. Sorry for coughing into the mic, guys. Yeah, I don't know. Njoku hasn't looked great to me, and that was another one of the notes from the film charters, is that like he kind of looks like he lost a step this year, and maybe that's partly why Fannon's been more involved early on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like the role. I don't like the volume. Looks really spread out. Don't see a ton of upside. I mean, he could get there, but he's just not someone who stood out to me.
You seemed a little bit more interested in the Pitts play.
Well, I didn't know he was hurt. I must have missed that. It was a really good schematic for him. And when I saw like him just totally flop, I was like, yeah, all right, it's just not going to happen for Pitts, and I'm just not going to play him at all this year. But if you want to write that off for injury, maybe he's a good play. But like I said, like I'm really down on this. I hope it's not an emotional thing where, it was just last week was so bad. But I do think there's just some like inherent dysfunction to this offense, given either Penix's liabilities or the play calling. Maybe things changed dramatically this week, just because Zach Robinson's been trashed by everyone. But yeah, I wouldn't go there.
All right, fair enough. All right, do you want to go back to running backs or
sure.
receivers?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start back at running backs. Christian McCaffrey is the chalk this week. He is 8,500, projected for 32% ownership. Is he just a lock button at this point, or do we need to get away from him? What do you think of Christian McCaffrey?
I think he's kind of a lock button. You can kind of make the argument that he doesn't have as much upside as we think he does, just given the price and just given the lack of touchdowns in this 49ers offense. And I kind of just look at XFP per game, and he's at 28.3, and the next closest player at any other position is at like 21.4. So yeah, I and like, this is just a general rule. This is outside the box, where I'm okay fading chalky quarterbacks, fading wide receivers, going really off the wall with like sub 5% plays. That's what I'm really known for being really good at identifying those players. When it comes to running backs, I'm kind of happy eating the chalk. It's just like generally that's where ownership is at its best. And And certainly when you have a Christian McCaffrey who is, getting a wide receiver 2 level target share and 17 carries per game, and is getting Brock Purdy back with Juwan Jennings out. I think he's awesome. He's a guy I'm going to have probably over 32% exposure to.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. Like I've been talking about, like, I think that it's actually viable this week if you wanted to, and it's not how I'm playing it, but just like lock in McCaffrey and Puka Nacua and then work out your lineup around them. I think
they're
it's
kind
like,
of the same guy.
I know, and it's like totally viable, and they're too cheap right now.
I've been calling Puka the CMC of wide receivers, where like just the volume is just so far, and usage and deployment and utilization is just so far ahead of everyone else. And neither of them are scoring touchdowns, but it doesn't matter. Puka's finished as the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 5, without a single receiving touchdown. They're just absolute freaks. And like, this reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you remember the Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman days, where like Johnny and I would just lock button them every single week, and it just always worked,
Yeah, we could just do it.
They're so safe. They're so safe.
Well, and you talk about like they're doing it without scoring touchdowns. Now you just add a touchdown here or there, and suddenly it's like, all right, so they've got the really high floor. We see it every week with all the touchdowns. Add some touchdown variants, and suddenly they're just like the ceiling is also there. So it's the floor ceiling combo, hard to get there. We got a super chat. Gabe Marcus says, boys, first, love you guys. Second, would you start May or Fields at quarterback this week?
I would go May. Let's see what Chris has to say.
Yeah.
So May is 19.2, Justin Fields 19.1. All right.
There you go.
I think there should be more of a gap, but I mean, hey, it is the Miami Dolphins defense, but I would go May.
Thank you for the super chat. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
May is the answer.
Cool.
All right, so McCaffrey, we love. We're willing to play even more than 32%. I'm not lock buttoning him, but yeah, as we talked about, like, it's probably viable if you wanted to. Then you have Omarion Hampton and Cam Scatterbo, the next two chalkiest. Who is your preference of these rookie running backs benefiting from injury? We got Hampton at 5,900, 23% ownership, Scatterbo 5,500, 19% ownership.
Yeah, so before my dream, I was gonna say I prefer Hampton. You look at Scatterbo, who again, like, no one, and maybe this is an emotional thing, and I bring this up because like if it is, I need to be told that. I'm a big Warren Buffett guy, big Charlie Munger guy, and so like that's the thing they always talk about is like, hey, we're never the smartest man in the room, but we're always the best investor in the room. Why? Because we know the edges of our own competency, never step outside of it, and we're keep watchful guard over our own like emotional cognitive biases. And so something I think I noticed I've done is where like if I'm like right on a guy versus everyone else, like no one else like was on Scatterbo as much as I was, I kind of just like want to take my profits and just like walk away from it.
Yeah.
But so it could be that, but I just like, I don't know that the upside's there. Like he's not an explosive player by any stretch. Like to me, I've been calling him Marshall Chalk, but really like the comp to me is like early career David Montgomery. You remember with the Bears, with maybe a little less explosive play, or like 2019 Leonard Fournette, where like the explosive plays certainly aren't there. The offensive line still isn't great. You're really hoping for like the PPR scam, which he's a great pass catcher. Like really, really, he understands the assignment, knows where to go, is dependable. But it's also Jackson Dart is a more mobile quarterback. I don't know that Russ is going to check down as much. Dart's going to check down as much as Russ. But you look at the role, Tyron Tracy out. It's going to be like a 70% snap share, 61% route share, 70% of the carries. And so, on paper matchup, not bad. Chargers have given up the 7th most yards per carry. Game script a concern, but not really if he's catching the passes. I don't see bury you upside. I don't see like 20, 25 fantasy points. I think he gets you like, in a best case scenario, I think he gets you like 18. And so when you're talking about 19% ownership, one of the chalkiest plays of the slate, I kind of want to back off it, but I literally had a dream. Like I woke up at I don't know, 8 a.m. with like the last thing on my mind was this dream of Scadaboo going nuclear, and either I was giving Theo shit for it, or I was, mad at myself for not playing it. So I don't know. Maybe the subconscious knows something I don't.
All right. So your subconscious is telling you to play Scadaboo.
So
T-Bro in chat.
So hold on. That's where I'm at with Scadaboo. You tell me. I need you to tell me. And then with Omari and Hampton, it's the concern with him, and it's good to be nitpicky when you're talking about 23% ownership, is Brett Whitefield, the best film analyst I know, thinks he does not look good. He had a good game last week, still thinks he looks. Wait, what was it even a good game? I think he averaged like 3.3 yards per carry, which was a season high. He just was more involved in the passing game, but thinks he has looked awful. Like, this is a player he was very high on coming out, but in the draft guide, he talked about if he fails, it's because of this. It's because a lack of a creativity, to make his own yards and whatnot. And that's really showed up. Lack of explosion, maybe it was lateral agility, but it's really showed up on film. So that's a concern. The good news is the role is going to be awesome. 88% snap share after Najee Harris went down last week, 88% of the carries. He had a 19% target share. And that's big for me, because that was one of the things I really caped up for throughout the draft process, was that he was a really underrated pass catcher. And then you saw that on draft night. Harbaugh was like, it was really important for us to get an every down back. And Omari and Hampton really impressed me as a pass catcher. And we think he could do that. That's been a big talking point in the dynasty streets is, Greg Roman doesn't target running backs or whatever, but that happened last week. And again, I think Hampton's really underrated there. You look at the matchup, I already talked about Giants being awful against wide receivers, awful through the air. They are also awful against the run, second most rushing yards per game, fifth worst yards per carry. They do have that P-row, the second highest P-row, but it's against a rookie quarterback making his first start. I think you can get off this if you wanted to. Like I said, running back chalk. I wouldn't kill you if you did that. Like, this isn't as good as the running back chalk last week at the very least. I don't know that the upside's there, just based on how Hampton is playing and then the environment for Scadaboo. But I want to hear your thoughts, because this is legitimately one I've struggled with.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct is that, just looking at it, Hampton the much better play than Scadaboo at their relative ownership.
23% versus 19%.
Yeah, they're so close in terms of ownership. Hampton not much more expensive, had much better pedigree coming in, and then really the big thing is just the matchup is so good for Hampton. Second best matchup in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed. By the way, they did update this page this week. Usually you don't update it till week 4, so this is a little bit early to get the schedule adjusted, but I appreciate it as somebody who leans on the schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. The Giants have allowed the second most to running backs, particularly good on the ground, but good through the air also. Yeah. Everything looks great for running backs against the Giants, whereas Scadaboo, again, doesn't come in with quite the same pedigree as Omari and Hampton. I don't think he's as good as Omari and Hampton, and now gets a worse matchup. So with the ownership being this close and the price being this close, to me, it's just a pretty clear, like, I'd rather play Omari and Hampton spot. It does feel like one where it could be like a shove the nerds into the locker kind of situation, where Scadaboo is just like going to continue to break all the models. Like, he doesn't look that good, but he just keeps on racking up fantasy points. Just, I don't know. So it feels like a spot where I could end up being wrong, but everything that I look at is like, why not just play more of Hampton? Like, he's the much better play, and he's not getting the ownership disparity that he should.
So I was building lineups last night and the night before, and maybe this is, my dream was trying to warn me or something. And I try not to build lineups early in the week that I fall in love with, but a lot of the lineups I really liked were expensive running back lineups.
Okay.
So, and there's also, by the way, we should talk about Chris Rodriguez too.
Yeah.
I think personally, we're going to get Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt out. And I, like, as a general rule to myself, I like to make plays based off of late news, just because, like, I don't know, you're an MME guy. Is it possible that Yuta, is just like, he gets this news at like 12 and he's just like, I don't want to fucking change fuck it. I'll just full fade C-Rod.
I doubt that you did. Yeah.
Well, not Yuta, but I think at the very least, like late news guys draw lower ownership than they should.
Yeah. That was so my Millie Maker was the morning of, we got the news that Harrison Bryant was starting at tight end for the Browns, which it's funny that he ended up being important, but he was a rookie starting for his first game. Got the news that he was going to be starting at tight end for the Browns in the best possible matchup for the Bengals. And I just knew, like, we get this news an hour before the slate starts that nobody was going to be on him. So I ended up playing a lot of Harrison Bryant. He scored like 19 fantasy points, was kind of like the player you needed on that slate. I think it's really important in DFS to take advantage of those spots. And like players who, yeah, if we got the news, 3 days ago, then the ownership would catch up. Everybody would be talking about it all week. A lot of people on Sunday morning are watching shows from Friday. So like they're not getting any news that comes out on the morning of. Yeah, I think it's really important to adjust to news as we get it. So I agree with you. Like C-Rod on his own, like 4,200. Yeah, the price tag's pretty nice there. We don't really know what the role is. Doesn't look like an amazing play. If we'd had to play all week, enough people would have talked about it. Maybe not a great play, but
yeah, make sure you check Chris. You're in Discord Sunday morning. Make sure you check Chris's projection Sunday morning. I don't think I've actually asked him where C-Rod would come in if or maybe I did. I'll check my DMs in a couple of minutes. But I mean, just at that price point, it creates a unique lineup. I also personally like C-Rod. We did a podcast together 2 years ago.
No way.
Yeah. Trey and I. He was a player I was really high on. Obviously, that doesn't look great, but pre-draft, very, very high on C-Rod. So did want to mention him at 4,200 as a way to get unique. We can take care of these super chats as well.
Are people sending in super chats to troll us at this point? Because I don't even know how to respond. Jeff says Bryson Tremaine. Who is Bryson Tremaine? This is above my head.
So he's a player I actually like. Theo and I talked about him on the School of Scott podcast.
Okay.
Because I had no idea he existed, but we were in, a week ago, I was checking Ass and I see Bryson Tremaine in the top 10. And I'm like, I literally don't even know who this is. Who is Bryson Tremaine? He had 2 catches last week for 15 yards. Only played 16 offensive snaps. I know Leggett's out. I know Jatavian Sanders is out. I don't think he's in play. I think he's more talented than Xavier Leggett. I'll say that much. I don't think he's in play just because there are a ton of punt wide receivers I legitimately love this week.
Okay. Yeah. So it was a real question. I was like, are these trolls? Because the second question would then get is, how are you feeling about Trey Benson? I mean, he played on the main slate. He played on Thursday already. He already played this week. So it's not a DFS question. I guess we can answer more generally. Are you bullish on Trey Benson's outlook for the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think so for sure. He 55% snap share, 8 of 11 carries, 5 targets, which is the really most surprising thing. Like that should be Amari DiMercado. And in game script, that's like entirely negatively suited to his skill set. So better days lie ahead. I think you're going to get like 85% of what James Conner was last year, mid-range RB2. But yeah, let's move on. I think people are mad. We're talking about redraft. Read the room, brother. And
appreciate the super chat.
You could spend $5 on a super chat. You could also just buy a Fantasy Points subscription. We just lowered prices, and you could use promo code GURU for an extra 15% off, and read the Everything report where I'll talk about all these guys.
Couldn't you use OTB 15 though instead?
Yeah.
Would that also work?
OTB 15.
OTB 15. All right.
That's the better one.
Yeah, use that one. All right. So we talked about Scadaboo, Hampton, McCaffrey. Who else do we want to talk about?
Like I said, I like paying up for running back this week, but I will say I know the Neil special this week. I know it.
Ooh, I don't think I know the Neil special this week, but as we scroll down, maybe I'll think if there's anybody I've talked about. I mean, Chris Rodriguez, you just named as somebody that I had not given any thought to, but with JCM out, he will become a player that I like quite a bit. No, I'm excited to get to the Neil special. Maybe you'll have to tell me who it is. But let's start with the spend ups. I mean, Jonathan Taylor has just been absolutely dominating. He's 7,500 against the Rams, 15% ownership. James Cook. I guess let's do those. Let's do those two and Bijan. Let's do those three all at once. James Cook, of course, facing the Saints. Huge spread in this game, so maybe they run it a lot. He's 7,100, 14% ownership. Bijan 8,200, 14% ownership against Washington. Start with those three. How would you rank them? How much do you like those three?
Yeah, so Bijan's actually not in my pool, and that's part of my disdain for the Atlanta Falcons offense, but it's primarily my love of Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, who I think are amazing plays this week. Jonathan Taylor is this year's Saquon Barkley, and you just need to, beat that into your head. Because it's not just a this year thing. It's since Anthony Richardson's last start, he's averaging 28 fantasy points per game. And this offense looks so much better than it was at the end of last year. They're top 3 in EPA per play, points per game, yards per play, anything you want to mention. His usage, his role is even better. 81% snap share, 66% route share, which is really surprising. And he's only priced as the RB5 in the highest total game of the slate. So this year's Saquon at only 15%, at only 7,500. I think that's a really good play. I might like James Cook even more.
Okay.
I think the Neil special, I'm not going to have any exposure, but I think the Neil special is Ray Davis.
I like that. I like that call. Yeah.
That is just such a Neil play. But yeah, I think James Cook is awesome. Cook has averaged 18 fantasy points per game in wins since 2023, something like 9 fantasy points per game and losses over that span. When the Bills have won by 6 or more points, he averages 28.5 DraftKings points in 36% of those games. And so now the Bills are massive 15.5 point favorites against the Saints. Their implied point total is 32. That's 5 points more than anyone else. And so I know people are like, oh yeah, well, we might get Mitchell Trubisky in the fourth quarter. We might, we'll get some Ray Davis. But I mean, you have to score enough points to get to that point, right? And so where is that coming from? And it's not a game where you need Josh Allen to be Superman. And James Cook looks awesome. And he just gave him a bunch of money. And they're using him like they just gave him a bunch of money. Like I hated him last year because he had that stupid 48% snap share and he would just randomly go off. Well, the snap share is way better. Carries are way up. Targets are way up. And for some reason, he's always lower owned. So I think this is a great spot to get some James Cook, to get some James Conner, to get some CMC into your lineups. And then everyone else after that, I like less,
significantly less. Okay. Saquon himself,
he's probably the running back I like the most after those guys. But even then, it for large field, definitely want to be overweight AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley. It's just rare upside. Had to have it upside where it's like the potential. You start a great way to start your process. I know JM to Win does this, is starting with guys who have the potential to break the slate where you can't finish first in a GPP without them. That's the entire name of the game, is finishing first. That's all we're trying to do is finish. We're not trying to, finish top 5%, not lose money. We're okay losing money 10 weeks in a row to get that first, which is where all the top heavy prize pool. And so a guy like Saquon, at least this was the case last year, was one of the most, term GPP winning seasons of all time. He's averaging 3.3 yards per carry now. It's a pass funnel spot. It's a tough run defense. But it's still that tantalizing upside that's you have to talk about. And again, like I said, Jalen Hurts sucks against the blitz. Bowles really has his number. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just shove Saquon Barkley down their throats and he rips off a few big runs. We haven't seen that this year. He only has 16 explosive rushing yards. That's 30th among running backs. And last year it was the most by any running back this decade. So maybe he is washed. I don't know, but he's the range of outcomes I'm describing is especially if you're a Millie player, he's a guy to make sure you have exposure to.
Yeah, for sure. Tristan Wirf's back this week. Not enough to entice you with Bucky.
No, I actually like Bucky because that's another interesting note is, so you look at this, it's okay. Baker Mayfield's banged up. Tristan Wirfs is back, but they're still down 2 starting offensive linemen, and they're up against the Eagles, which is like, oh God, the scary Philadelphia Eagles. But I don't know. You look at the advanced metrics, I think they're only scary on paper. By schedule adjusted, that's certainly the case. You could say that's because they lost their best run stopper in week 1. They're bottom 3 in explosive play rate, bottom 3 in, I don't know, EPA per carry or whatever. But even if you control for week 1, they still don't look all that impressive to me. And then just Bucky Irving's one of those guys where, we were clamoring to play him in the second half of last year with just a 55% snap share. Now he's 76% snap share, top 7 in carry share, top 7 in route share, top 7 in target share. So he's a guy I like for sure. Yeah. I don't like him as much as James Cook and Jonathan and the chalkier expensive guys, but he's up there.
Yeah. We got another super chat. I feel like it's going to annoy enough people that we maybe need to set like a minimum for super chats for us to answer.
This hasn't happened any other week.
Questions. I know we're just getting a ton today, all for the same price. Trade Jettis for Nico and Rashi. I think my answer is actually yes. As a huge Justin Jefferson fan in redraft, we're getting close enough to Rashi returning. Jefferson dealing with some bad quarterback play in general. I don't know. I'm scared off enough with Jefferson that I think I would do it. Would you?
Yeah, I think that's right. If you're an all-in subscriber, ask Ball Knowledge. We have our own fantasy football AI, and it's actually incredible. It's actually like really good. That's one of the things it does best is for trade questions, it gives you the answer based on our rest of season rankings, based on our projections, and then based on our analysis that we've written throughout the week. So I know a lot of our subscribers love it. They just like spend all day asking different trade questions. Is this fair? Who should I target for Justin Jefferson? So you have that too if you use promo code OTB15 for 15% off.
Nice. And Steinem asking, and this is one that I was about to get to, are we playing any Derrick Henry in this spot against Kansas City? I know he's mad. He's mad at himself for all of the fumbles that are costing them games. At some point, is Derrick Henry just going to go off for 200 yards? Could he do it against this Kansas City defense? Any interest in Derrick Henry?
I think this is still a really good run defense. And I don't know. It's kind of the same bet as Saquon, which means he's a good play and like you should have Millie exposure. But I like Saquon a little bit more, so I didn't have him in my pool. I went with Saquon for that.
All right. I mean, he's in terms of schedule adjusted.
Derrick Henry every week. He's a really good GPP play because a lot of these people are going off of sims and projections, but like he's a guy you throw the projections out. He Barkley and Jonathan Taylor are these guys who are so different from every other running back in that they break off explosive runs at a rate that's so much higher than everyone else. And when you have an explosive run, you have a 60-yard rushing touchdown. It really swings things. It's really such a needle mover in GPP. So, even if we forget to mention Derrick Henry in a week, just know he's always a good GPP play, unlike so many other running backs.
Yeah, relatively low ownership here. Action Genty, I got to say, I was excited about playing him earlier in the week. I thought I was going to get to a lot of Genty because, again, the Chicago defense, I think we could see a lot of scoring against them. 6,200, 13%. I've seen him like double this ownership projection in some places. Even 13%, he's getting a fair amount of ownership. Do you have any interest in Genty if this 13% is accurate?
I won't have a ton because, like you said, he's super expensive, but I think he is a good play. We know he's really talented. It's just this offensive line is like unworkable.
Okay.
They rank second worst in yards before contact per attempt. The good news is Bears run defense is worse in the league by the same stat. The Raiders also have positive game script, which is crucial for Genty and how he's being utilized. and he might be an underdog in like every other game over the next 2 months. So yeah, this would be the spot to play him. I do think there's better plays, but I could for sure see him hitting in a major way.
Kyron for $100 more, slightly less ownership. How do you like Kyron?
Yeah, I like him a little more than GT, but this is really game theory. As someone who's gone heavy on Ram stacks over the years, I know Kyron Williams' propensity to just totally derail a Rams game because he's not involved in the passing game. He is extremely heavily involved inside the red zone. So to me, he's an elite leverage play, even at 12%. We know everyone wants to play Puka. We know everyone wants to play Jonathan Taylor. And so what is the scenario where those guys flop? It's a Kyron Williams game. It's also positive game script. Kyron, like Derrick Henry, one of the most game script sensitive running backs in fantasy since the start of 2023, 20 fantasy points per game in wins, 15 fantasy points per game in losses. You know, Blake Corum is still heavily involved, but Kyron's still top 5 in XFP per game after leading all running backs in that stat the last 2 seasons.
A couple other rookie running backs that I think are kind of interesting. Trevion Henderson, I think just with the fumbling issues for Ramondre and Antonio Gibson last week, we could see Trevion take on a little bit more work this week. And we know that he's an explosive running back who can do it on limited touches. So if he sees an increase in touches at 5,200, sort of interesting. You have him at 6% ownership, which is higher than I've seen elsewhere. A little bit less exciting there, but still fine. And then Quinshon Judkins, a guy that I'm really interested in. Coming in at 3% ownership, 5,500. He just looks like he's really, really good. Like he's even against the Packers, he put up a lot of fantasy points. So if nobody wants to play him at 5,500, not a great matchup, but like better than the Packers matchup. So I have some interest in Quinshon Judkins at 3% ownership. What's your level of interest in Trevion and or Quinshon?
Yeah, I wrote up both guys as contrarian plays I'm into. And we talked about this a little bit with RJ Harvey, who plays on Monday night. This is typically the week where you see running backs get a nice little rookies get a nice little spike in usage. You start to trust them more involved in the game plan. And so I can see all 3 rookie running backs breaking out. RJ Harvey, not on the main slate, Judkins and Trevion Henderson. Yeah, Judkins was a guy I shit all over throughout the offseason. My model hated him. He was, freshman season at Ole Miss, 15th percentile yards after contact per attempt. Both seasons at Ohio State, it's like 23rd percentile yards after contact per attempt. And guys under that threshold just never do anything at the NFL. Maybe this was a charting issue because fantasy points data doesn't chart college players, but dude looks freaking awesome. Dude ranks top 3 in yards after contact per attempt right now. He looks like Nick Chubb reincarnated. The congrats Browns fans. You guys have a new Nick Chubb. It's a small sample size, but just what this guy has been able to do, missing all of training camp, just joining the team, I don't know, 17 days ago. I don't even know if he had the playbook that whole time.
Yeah.
It's insane. It really is. And so, game script's a concern. He doesn't catch passes, but the dude looks good. And, maybe this is just like playing, vintage Nick Chubb for cheap. So at 3%, I think he's a good play. Trevion, Ryan and Jake kind of had to fight me on this, but I do think they were right. This is just a really good spot for a player we know is dynamic, was comped to Jahmyr Gibbs coming out in terms of what he can do on a per touch basis. I kind of don't think he's ever going to be a bell cow. And I think that's partly who he is. I think that's partly the coaching staff. But I mean, certainly due for a spike in usage. Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson combined for 3 fumbles last week. After that happened in the second half, Henderson, 72% snap share, 9 of 12 carries, 64% route share. I kind of personally think he's, in a game without injuries and without fumbles, just kind of doomed to be a 40% snap share guy. But Jake and Ryan strongly disagree. And I mean, he is clearly so much more talented and dynamic. So there is that. It is a great matchup. Panthers best best defense last year, look like a bottom 5 run defense this year. And it's, good game script, which is a rarity for New England, high implied point total. So do think it's a good spot for Travian if you want to go there.
Okay. I made the argument all summer about why I was not playing a ton of drafting a ton of Quinshon Judkins. I was drafting a ton of Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford over the course of the summer, talking about how, well, he's not getting any practice for the team. Like, it's going to take some time for him to get there. He's got so many obstacles to get there. The only way that I could really see this working out is if he is just way, like, head and shoulders better than both Sampson and Ford. And then, of course, that's exactly what happens. Like, immediately, even without practice, just looks awesome. Just going back to Judkins a second. Okay. I don't think, I mean, you brought up Ray Davis as a potential Neil special. I don't know that I go there this week just because we have so many strong mid-range options that I don't know that I need to go all the way down to 4,000 on a different slate. I do think that is a pretty strong call. Maybe I'll get some, I don't know, but not a huge priority. Any other running backs that you really like?
Yeah. Pollard stacked with Titans defense, I think, is interesting. I think that's pretty strong for a millie, but probably not going to play it outside of a millie.
Okay. Anybody else?
No. Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought about. I came close to writing up. Right, I think I did write up, and then I deleted. 20% first read target share is crazy good. That kind of mitigates the elite Cleveland Browns run defense. Extremely heavy involvement inside the red zone. We know he's talented and whatnot, but like I said, did not end up making my pool.
Okay. Josh asks, how do you think through situations for a player who are going to pop in the optimizers, i.e. big volume / opportunity, but who aren't on good teams or who are inefficient? Well, an optimizer isn't going to factor in ownership at all. If you just like run the optimals, you're only going to get the top projected lineups. I would just look at the projected ownership, I guess. And I think projected ownership is going to give you a pretty good idea of how much players are going to be owned, more so than how much they pop in the optimizers. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on how to think through those situations with players that, I guess what he's saying really is project really well, so they'll pop in optimizers, but who are on not good teams or are inefficient? So I guess Cam Skadaboo might be the perfect example, who's going to pop into some optimizers, but he's not particularly efficient. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a Neil question. I'm not big on, I don't use optimizers too much unless it's to like find out what the chalk lineups are and then try and work against them from a game theory standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I guess I'm trying to work through what the question, what you really mean by this. I think generally, you're looking for, you're trying to figure out what are the odds of a player being optimal or being in the winning lineup versus their ownership. And so that's kind of how I think through it in general, is what are the odds that this player is going to make it into the winning lineup versus their ownership. So I'm always looking at Omarion Hampton, Cam Skadaboo, for example. It's, you just look at, okay, rather than looking at how much they pop in the optimal, you're looking at the ownership number. What are the odds relative to 23%? Do I think Omarion Hampton going to be more or less likely to make it into the winning lineup than 23%, or put up a score that I really want? And same thing for Cam Skadaboo. So for me, for example, here, I think Omarion Hampton, 23% seems about like, I think he's probably more likely than 23% to have a score that I'd be really happy to have. Whereas Cam Skadaboo may be less likely than 19%. And then I'm also all of them relative to each other. So it's not just a score that you really want. It's a score that you really want relative to all the other running backs on the slate. So it's kind of a lot that goes into it. I don't know that I'm giving you a great answer here, but I don't know. There's so much you need to think through. Sim's obviously better at handling that kind of stuff than just using an optimizer. Jeff asked, does Adonai Mitchell have a shot? Another Ask God. I mean, we're going to get to wide receivers, but what are your thoughts on AD Mitchell?
Yeah. Can we save that for when we talk about punt wide receivers? I mentioned that a few times. I think I was talking to Ryan about this. I think my DFS play has gotten a lot better last year and this year. And I think that's because I've kind of purged myself from fancy play syndrome, right? To fall too in love with these off the wall plays that no one else is on. And like that really might be one of my biggest edges. I just reshared it, but there's no independent third party validation of like who the best DFS touts are. But there was that one guy who said he tracked PFF, he tracked ETR, and he tracked a number of other sites, and no one came close to my hit rate in terms of the slate breakdown, my article, my player pool, of nailing the guys who would be in the winning Millie lineup every single week. So I do have that, but I would just go too crazy with it in my own lineups, where I would be trying to fade, like, not even the field. I would be trying to fade like the best DFS sites, the best DFS projections and analysts. And so I just stopped getting too crazy with these off the wall plays. That said, I don't think AD Mitchell's one of them. I don't think the punts we're going to talk about are among them. Like I think Isaiah Bond is really interesting. Like, look at what the Browns are doing. They just have these two fucking assholes who missed all of camp, were signed like 12 days ago, and they look awesome. Like, Isaiah Bond was a player. That was one of my hot takes, was Isaiah Bond might be better than Matthew Golden. And now he's in this like kind of juicy T.Y. Hilton role, where you have this like speed demon working out of the slot, and his route shares climbing every single week. And there's like a few more guys like that. That I think is too fancy. AD Mitchell, I think, is a legitimately good play. We'll get to it. He's 3,100, drawing minimal ownership. Like I said, I think the way I'm playing this week is every one of my lineups is going to have at least one punt, probably only one, and that could be a wide receiver, that could be a Tommy Tremble. And I think that's a way to get unique. Like I said, that the expensive running backs instead of an O'Marion Hampton, a Cam Scatterbo.
All right. Yeah. So are we done with running back? Do you have any other?
No. Yeah, I'm done. Sorry.
All right. We're going to move on to wide receiver. I just want to point out, One-Eyed Jack is right. He says, if the projections are good, then the game situation should be accounted for in the projection. That's another point that in my response, which was not a great response, you should factor in like the whether they're on good teams, whether they're inefficient, all of that goes into the projection. So if they're still popping in optimizer, if their projection is really high, that is accounting for the fact that they are inefficient on a bad team, etc. So that's a good note from One-Eyed Jack Productions. All right, let's move on to receivers. Top of ownership is Puka Nacua. We kind of already talked about Puka, just in a class by himself. I think at wide receiver, you call him the CMC of receivers. 30%. Are you inclined to have more than 30% Puka
Nacua? So here's where it gets a little tricky. On Tuesday, Wednesday, my take was going to be, I'm all in on Davante Adams. I'm going to have 100% Davante Adams this week. And this is when it looked like ownership was going to be a lot lower on him. This was also, more importantly, before the hamstring injury of a 33-year-old wide receiver, which I do not love. I asked Edwin about it. He thinks the median case is probably like he just loses 5 routes and he'll be okay. So like I said, super condensed offense. And I also think Puka Nacua's been running a little bit hot, because I did not see this happening. Quinyon Mitchell shadowed Davante Adams last week. That was the first time he's ever shadowed a receiver. And that really kind of probably hurt Adams in terms of targets, in terms of production. He also did drop a touchdown pass. But you look at the analytics on Davante Adams, both him and Puka are top 3 in XFP per route run. Adams leads all wide receivers in XFP per team play. Usage really good. Adams also running back. He leads all wide receivers in uncatchable XFP, 50% of his total XFP. Puka's getting lucky. He's 19%. It's also partly a function of usage. However, because Adams is getting the deep shots, there's more volatility to that. And he's run bad on it. When that hits, when that works, that tells us Adams has more upside. It's also inside the red zone. Davante Adams ranks behind only CMC, another guy who's running bad, in red zone XFP per game. He leads all receivers in end zone targets, red zone targets. Puka's not involved in the red zone. This is the case last year. This is the case this year. Adams has really been that focal point, but he's run so bad with that. He has like 2.2 red zone XFP per game, or fantasy points per game, on, like 10 XFP per game or whatever it is. And so I tweeted it out. And so all this tells me is this is a player with a ton of upside. It's also, he's still got it. He's still good. Do you know who the current ascot is, Neil?
For this year?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a 33-year-old Davante Adams, Neil.
No way. I mean, I should have known based on the way how you set that
the
up.
Conversation. And it's the McVay is calling it up beautifully for him. Tons of intermediate routes, which are super valuable for fantasy, tons of horizontal routes. And so this was my conviction call, was I'm all in on Davante Adams. I'm locking him in. That's how strongly I feel. I'm going to have more Adams than Puka, but I'm also going to play them together without Stafford because, like I talked about at the top of the show, unfortunately, I do think this is kind of concerning. 33 years old, hamstring. Worst case scenario, it's like Mike Evans bad. Best case scenario is fine. Median, again, I talked to Edwin, is like, maybe he's 95% and he loses 5 routes this week because McVay wants to play it safe. So now he's just a good play. Maybe I'll have 25% and the field has 20, but he was at one point a lock button. And obviously a hampered Adams has to boost Puka, who already is the CMC of wide receivers.
I was sort of surprised just looking at it. So I looked up schedule adjusted for the matchup, saw that it's not generally a great matchup with the Colts, or I guess slightly above average below average for receivers, but a great matchup for slot receivers against the Colts so far this year. I was surprised to see how much slot Puka's playing. 54.5% slot rate. Did not realize that Puka played that much from the slot. But kind of interesting note, they're bad against slot receivers, and Puka gets most of the slot work there. Is surprised me. But yeah, okay. Then we get so those are the Rams guys. You said, we're Demarcus Robinson on the Niners, another team that we're going to want to get to. But first, let's go over Vegas. Jacoby Myers coming in at 23% ownership at 5,400. Trey Tucker with the big game last week, 4,200 projected for 9% ownership. And then I also Galaxy Brain play. Want to hear your thoughts on Dante Thornton at 3,900, 1% ownership, whether you think he's viable. How much are you going to get to of the Vegas receivers?
So I never play Jacoby Myers when he's chalk. I think he makes sense as a cash play. I play him all the time when he's lower owned, but not playing him as chalky as he is. Even though the matchup is really good for him, this is like almost a perfect schematic matchup. Since Davante Adams was traded, he's easy high-end wide receiver 2 volume production. But he's also like a cash play. He doesn't have a ton of upside. So I think you can get away from fading him for tournaments. I don't know why you'd play Dante Thornton and not Trey Tucker. I'm actually surprised by Trey Tucker's ownership. The dude just dropped a 40 burger and his price barely rose. And like, no one really wants to play him. When Juwan Jennings dropped a 40 burger last year, he was like 40% the following week. And now Trey Tucker's 8% or whatever. Guys, 40 burgers are freaking rare and they're insanely valuable. That said, it's like a worst possible schematic matchup for him. Too high coverage should, in theory, really limit the deep ball for both him and Dante Thornton, which really sucks a lot of the value out from under them. And so now you have me thinking, it's like, I mean, all these guys are in play for Caleb lineups, for Geno lineups. But outside of that, how do you play it? Yeah, maybe I should should have hyped up Gene T and Gene T plus Raiders stacks a little bit more.
Oh, interesting. That's a fun
for lineups that don't have any Raiders receivers, don't have any Bears receivers.
Yeah. So I'm totally with you on Tucker, like not getting as much ownership as he probably should for the matchup with the Bears. Obviously you don't want to chase 3 touchdowns in a game. Like it's probably the best game of Tucker's career.
I don't think it's chasey. Yeah. I don't think it's chasey when his ownership is as low as it is. Like it should be more chase. Like I'm used to seeing an event like that as, people are saying it's a once in a lifetime event. It's not as important. What's more important is what do you win when you're right? And so 40 burgers are really tip the scales in a major way. So I don't know. I just lost my train of thought.
If it's a 20 burger, we would also take that at 4,200. Like we would be really happy with half of the score.
Yeah, there's that too. There's that too.
Yeah. But so my reasoning for bringing up Dante Thornton is just that it's also a very enticing matchup for another guy, kind of similar to Trey Tucker, not obviously lost the route participation, some down 30% lower route participation, but he's a big play guy. Like he just has the, like, if he's the guy who hits on a couple splash plays, to me, he's the one who's like not getting any ownership. And now this week it'll be even less because people are like, well, I'm just going to play Trey Tucker. Like he's crushing it, whatever. But I think Dante Thornton still has like kind of the big plays in his bag of tricks that he still could get there. So just as a super contrarian play, because there's a big difference between 1% ownership and 9% ownership, I guess is the reason that I would think about playing a little bit of Dante Thornton in this matchup. Also worth noting that the matchup particularly good again for slot receivers, and that is primarily Jacoby Myers. As you mentioned, he is getting a lot of ownership. So I don't know that I really want to be higher than the 23% he's getting, but I think I'm okay with it.
I'll probably full fade, to be honest, outside of Caleb Geno lineups.
Yeah. Dangerous game you're playing, Scott.
Another full fade is number 4, Drake London. And again, I've said this 3 different times. I really hope it's not just an emotional thing and I'm seeing with clarity, but this is a player, like, I'm so mad at myself for not being lower on, just because I trashed him all throughout the process. And then caved under peer pressure and ranked Drake London as a decent pick in round 2 or whatever. But you look back at last season, before that Darnell Mooney injury in week 17, what was the difference between Drake London and Darnell Mooney through 16 weeks, a huge sample, only 28 receiving yards. And over that span, London only had one 100-yard game, and it was a game Mooney out-targeted him and outscored him. And so, and what has London done this year? He's sucked ass, and the usage isn't good. They've cut his slot share in half, which is really where he got a ton of his production. And this Falcons offense looks awful, bad play calling. Michael Penix looks terrible. And the last 2 weeks, an unhealthy, I think, Darnell Mooney, better target share, better first read target share, 2 end zone targets to London 0. So I'm personally full fading him, but I do worry it's just like an emotional thing. And, he's due because he's Drake London.
Scott, I need to get you on some more best ball shows next year, because this year I didn't even realize that you were so down on Drake London. I just knew that some of the other fantasy football guys.
What are you talking about? I trashed him in DFS all last season. And in
DFS you did. Yeah. That is true.
Mooney was my guy last year.
Yeah, no, that is true. I guess I didn't realize the extent to which you disliked him as a round 2 best ball pick. And I was talking to other
Debro knows. Where's Debro at?
Debro loves him some Drake London. So he's one of them that I'm referring to that I did shows with. And I remember people being super in on Drake London. There's another one that I have in mind. But I did not get the counterpoint from you this offseason for best ball. So next year we'll have to have these conversations.
And he's just not a ceiling guy, like fundamentally. Like outside of those 2 games last year or maybe they were all overtime games, honestly, but he just very overrated ceiling all throughout his career.
He had a game where he had like 15 points in the first quarter in like the nut matchup and then got hurt. So he could have had another spike week in there if he had not gotten hurt early. But anyway, I digress. So you're not playing 5,700. To me, that just that looks like such a nice price tag. The matchup is so nice that if you were not getting 19% ownership, I'd be super into London. At 19%, I don't know that I'm going to be with the field there, but I don't think I hate it as much as you do.
Any excuse I can get to fade a chalky guy, and when it's someone I have such a disdain for, it's easy for me. And part of it too is the 2 guys right under him. One is a great play. One is I think a lock button play for. I might just yeah. I won't tell you which. I wouldn't. All subscribers will know, but one of them's a lock button.
All right. So you like both Odunze and Olave?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to hear my pitch?
Yeah. I want to hear your pitch.
So Odunze ranks 4th among all wide receivers in XFP per game, 3rd in DraftKings fantasy points per game. His price is just the wide receiver 10, 6,300, insulting. Raiders defense giving up the second most yards per game to outside wide receivers. So the matchup's also amazing. I think he's going to be 4 weeks from now. I think he's going to be 7,800. Like that's the trajectory we're at. And I think he's good at ball. Like my model really liked him. Matt Harmon, this is the first ever all green prospect he charted. What happened is Shane Waldron's a terrorist, Neil. If you look at his track record, his history, he has BTJ now. He had Romo Dunze last year. He had JSN the year before that. And so, no Shane Waldron. I think he's a great play. And then Chris Olave is, you hear about me talking about XFP. Right now, he leads all wide receivers in XFP per game, 21.6. His actual fantasy points per game, all right, fair enough, way under it. He's like 9 fantasy points per game under it. And this Spencer Rattler is not great. His offense isn't great. So he's probably going to fall under his XFP at the end of the year, but he's not going to fall under it by 9 fantasy points. There's just no way. And so clearly one of the best volume related values on the slate. They're 15.5 point favorites against Buffalo, which is kind of awesome. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get a full quarter and a half of soft zone prevent defense, where he can just rack up. And like, that's a key point too, is like the one thing we know about Buffalo's defense all throughout the Sean McDermott era is that they're the best defense in the league at shutting down the deep ball. That's fundamentally, philosophically who they are, what they want to be. Chris Olave, it has sort of the Puka Nacua role in terms of like, if you just overlap where their targets are on a grid on the field, it's like exactly the same. Like he leads in XFP per game. Typically you're like, oh, he's probably top 5 in deep targets per game. He's not. He's actually a low ADOT guy this year. And yeah, so I actually don't think this is a tough matchup. People are going to see Buffalo's defense, fewest yards per game allowed, but soft zone and where Olave is being targeted, I think that's strong. And yeah, just 5,100. That looks like a steal.
All right. So we like Olave, we like Odunze. You really liked Sam Laporta. You talked about maybe playing a little bit of Goff. Do you like Amon-Ra at 7,300?
Not as much as Laporta, but for sure on Goff lineups. Okay.
We get Christian Gonzalez back for the Patriots. Does that scare you off Teteroa McMillan?
It does. I am a cornerback truther. So that does, like, if you talk to Chris Wecht, if you talk to Jake Tribby, they would say it doesn't mean anything to me. To me, it's like, okay, Christian Gonzalez out non-shadowing is like, you get 35 routes against a guy who's bad. You put Christian Gonzalez in there, you get 29 routes against a guy who's really good. And if you just look historically, Christian Gonzalez shadow games, the wide receiver they faced in all other games versus in that game, you're going to see a 20% reduction in fantasy points per game. You're going to see a maybe 40% reduction in like GPP winning scores. Add to that, Tet McMillan dealing with a calf injury. It's not great. Don't love calf injuries. I will just say I love the player. This was my Exodia of all Exodias this offseason, and he looks amazing. He's run pretty bad with luck, and he wasn't really targeted as much as he should those first few weeks, but did finally have a 33% yardage share. And if you're not a cornerback truther, you're looking at the Patriots defense, you're seeing they're giving up the 4th most yards per game. I think he's a really great value on FanDuel. I think on DraftKings, I'm scared off with the calf. I'm scared off with Christian Gonzalez, but if he smashes in a big way, you guys can chime in chat and give me a hard time next time I cornerback truther.
All right. Fair enough. For the record, not shown as a shadow situation, at least in the wide receiver cornerback matchup. So
maybe I'm wrong. I got to talk to Steve about that, who handles this and is the director of AS for fantasy points.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I think he shadows personally, but
yeah,
I want to hear what Steve thinks.
Yeah. Instinctively, I would think that he would, but So others that I want to hear your thoughts on. So we talked about Jackson Dart as being a player that you became higher and higher on as we talked about him. Are you stacking him up with Wandale? Are you stacking him up with Malik Neighbors? Who are you stacking with there?
I think you could stack him up with Scatterbo even if you wanted, but my clear, and I think Wandale is fine. And you know me, I hate Wandale, so that's saying something. But it would for sure be Malik, as you know, probably only Malik, and I don't. Could I play Jackson Dart without Neighbors? Yeah, maybe. But yeah, for sure, love Neighbors. I might even like him on one-off lineups. What happened? He just had the lowest target share of his career, and he probably got the quarterback fired because he's an a-hole. Like, this is something I knew about him coming out, and why I was so high on him for fantasy this year, last year, is I was asking a guy who's now a GM, what was up with BTJ's usage? Like, why was his target share so low relative to Malik Neighbors at LSU when his efficiency was so high? And he was like, oh, don't read too much into that. It's just Neighbors is a bit of an a-hole. Like, if he doesn't get his 12 targets per game, he throws a hissy fit, and BTJ is more laid back. So yeah, Neighbors wants the ball, demands the ball. He's telling Jackson Dart, just everything's gonna be okay. Just get me the ball. And we know that's what rookies do, is they just lock on to their best player. And so, yeah, and I just love the player. Like, I legitimately think he's more talented than Justin Jefferson. That was a hot take that FanDuel Sportsbook aggregated me on. He was leading all players in XFP coming into last week. So yeah, I think he's a good play, regardless of whether or not you have Jackson, but especially if you have Jackson.
Okay. 49ers receivers. So we're thinking that Juwan Jennings is doubtful for this one. So then it could be the Pearsall show. The ownership probably comes up above 8% here, but say it doubles to 16%. Would you still like him at 5,700 against Jacksonville? So far, a really strong matchup for receivers, second best in terms of schedule adjusted. How much do you like Pearsall?
Oh, that's someone brought up too, is like, dude, Dart's probably an upgrade or he is an upgrade on Russell Wilson. So that's part of it too. And, but Ricky Pearsall, yeah, so right now we have it projected. Juwan is one of the best values of the slate, but I think he's going to sit out. Even with Juwan projected in, Pearsall is a top. Is that what we have it? Can you sort by fantasy points per dollar?
Yeah, Juwan 5th in terms of fantasy points per dollar, Pearsall 7th.
Oh, okay. So we might have docked him a little bit just on this injury news, but when I checked last night, Juwan was number 2. But yeah, it looks like he's out. What have we seen? We've just seen 49ers quarterbacks just totally lock on to Pearsall when Jennings is out. I think we see the exact same thing again. I think Pearsall is really good. This was an Exodia wide receiver for me. It looks like he's, just kind of taken over for Brandon Ayuk. Currently ranks 3rd among all wide receivers in yards per game, behind only JSN and Nakua. Like CMC running a little bad in the red zone department. 49ers have really struggled there. And this looks like a good matchup. I said Jacksonville's defense has been underrated. But they are giving up the 3rd most yards per game to outside wide receivers. That's where Jennings runs about 75% of his routes. So I really do see him as one of the better values of the slate. And then, like I said, there's a lot of punt wide receivers to like. I think Demarcus Robinson at 3,500 is one of them. I asked Chris Wecht. He said, when or if Jennings is ruled out, D-Rob would jump into the top 7 for us, somewhere around there. This was an Ascot. This is also like a star of 49ers training camp. There's some of the beats were more glowing of D-Rob than they were of Pearsall. Although Grant Cohn multiple times said Pearsall was the white OBJ. But yeah, like similar hype for D-Rob, which is crazy for a guy who's nearly in his mid 30s. So yeah, he's interesting. No one's going to play. 0% ownership.
You already talked about Adonai Mitchell as somebody that sounds like you have some interest in at 3,100.
Yeah. So this is formerly the Ascot. 3,100 is so freaking cheap. I think like, even if you're So he was the ass god last year. What do I mean by that? Is like, what was it, week 9 into the season, he led all receivers in average separation score. And so I tweeted that out. The tweet went somewhat viral. And then you had Reggie Wayne asked about, what's going on with Adonai Mitchell? He dropped the ball twice, and he was like, I don't worry about Adonai Mitchell. He might be the best separator in all of football. And so like either he was looking at ass, or maybe he sees the exact same thing we do. The dude just gets open. He got really, really bad luck though. Last year, it was the worst catchable target rate in fantasy points data history. Anthony Richardson, awful. We all know this. But basically the argument to me is just like, we're getting Alec Pierce at a $1,300 price reduction. And that's your boy, Neil. Your boy is Alec Pierce. And like, that's a great guy to cape up for. He was awesome for tournaments because no one ever played him, but he hit 24.5 DraftKings fantasy points in 3 of 15 games last year. And then even this year, he hit 65 yards in back-to-back games. So I think he's a really good salary saver, a really good punt. I think there's upside here. I like it. And then you get to say you played the Ascot and won $1 million.
Played the Ascot. Yeah, that would be fun. We talked about the Chargers a little bit, the Chargers passing game. Do you have preference between, it sounds like you like Ladd, QJ, we think is for real. Keenan has been awesome. Are you just playing all of the Chargers receivers? They actually didn't make my pool. They didn't make my right. And it was just because I couldn't pick between them. But if you're an MME guy, they're all in play. Yeah. Anybody else that you want to talk about a receiver before I build lineups? Yeah. I'm not done with these punt wide receivers. All right, let's hear them. But let me see if I have any. I'll sort by fantasy points per dollar again. Okay, let me see if we have any more expensive wide receivers we might have missed. I can sort by salary here. I brought up AJ Brown again. The stat was 6,400. 4x value is 25.6. He's hit that mark in 5 of 15 full games since the start of last season. Tampa Bay pass funnel, a little bit of a squeaky wheel. So Deebo Samuel's another guy. It's just Terry McLaurin's out, Noah Brown's out, John Bates is out. If Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's out too, that he's going to get a rushing bump. And yeah, so the rest of the punts I like. And I really like Tyquan Thornton at 4K. That's my favorite of the punts. Even with Xavier Worthy coming back, you're not worried about it? I'm a little worried about it. I think it's overstated. I really think we see him limited, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's just talking to the injury experts, talking to someone who had the exact injury and played high school ball. It's just like, you're really worried about taking punishment. I don't see him getting more than just a handful of targets and playing more than just, like 30% of the routes. I really could be wrong. Part of this is also like, A.D. Mitchell's one of my guys. He's the ass god. Tyquan Thornton's one of my guys. I was, everyone thought the Patriots reached on him. I thought he was a day 2 prospect. And he looks awesome this year. Like, he's not just the only Chiefs receiver with the pulse. Like, he looks legitimately good. His usage and volume is good. He ranks second among all wide receivers in air yards, has 11 deep targets. That's a third of as many as last year's league leader throughout the entire season. Last week, 9 targets, 24% target share, 18 fantasy points, 19 XFP. It's a great schematic matchup. And so I kind of think Chiefs are going to be trailing in this one. It's a must-win game. I think we see a few deep shots, some intermediate targets as well, because I don't think they trust Xavier Worthy with the short stuff, with his bad shoulder and 160-pound frame. We'll see, but I like him. I think he's a good punt with underrated upside. I think Parker Washington could be an amazing play if Diami Brown is out. Diami Brown went down in the second half of last week's game, and then Washington came in, had a full-time role, 25% target share, 85% route share, 16.4 XFP. And so I brought this up earlier. Trevor Lawrence locking on to his first read, really needs guys who can get open quickly. That's Parker Washington, who right now ranks
third in targets per route run. It's Puka, it's JSN, and then it's Parker freaking Washington. So only 3,700. He would be the best punt, I think, if Diami Brown is out. But Diami Brown looks like probably more probable than questionable. And then maybe not, right above him is Christian Kirk, who I wrote up in the everything report as like he could be the in-season Exodia. He's a free agent in 67% of Yahoo leagues. And I think he might have, I think either the Texans are just going to be a bottom 5 offense all year. Their offensive line stinks. CJ Stroud's overrated. All they have is Nico Collins. Or Christian Kirk was the quiet key to making this engine run. I'm out here in Houston, really good Texan sources, and the vibes on Christian Kirk were insane. More so than any other player. They were calling him the slot demon. They kept saying he was uncoverable. And you look at this. So Nick Haley, I've just shit all over. I think he's done an awful job. People thought he was a McVay guy. He's not. He's heavily influenced by the Josh McDaniels system, which, as we all know, runs through the slot. And so maybe it's just possible they were missing Christian Kirk last week or those first few weeks. Kirk didn't do anything last week in terms of production, but the volume is really good. Tennessee is a major slot funnel. They're bottom 7 to slots, but they're average to outside wide receivers. They're top 10 to tight ends and pass catching running backs. But that's really my most galaxy brain of the punts. But no one else is really on it. So,
okay. Somebody asked about Jerry Jeudy. Are we playing any of the Browns receivers, Jeudy or Tillman, both low owned at, pretty low price tags?
So Jeudy is Joe Dolan's favorite play of the week. They're kicking their slot cornerback out wide, putting some unproven guy in the slot. So that should be a favorable matchup. There's also multiple Steelers beats, and one of the coaches have talked about the need to get Jeudy more involved. That's our number one. And we really, for this offense to hum, we really need to get him going, something along those lines. So Joe really likes Jeudy. Personally, like I said, it's just, they're really spreading the ball around.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of this 4-way committee once you factor in Fannin and Isaiah Bond. So I'm not going to go there, but I did think about it.
Okay. Any other receivers to talk about?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's move on. Let's make some lineups.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hell yeah. All right. Quarterback.
Damn,
Where do we
Jeff is going. Appreciate it, Jeff.
This
is he just bought $2 million for us.
$2 million for us. How can we get Nico Collins to KC and Mahomes? Probably have to trade Rashee Rice. I don't know. How would you make that happen? I don't know.
If you're Kansas City, I would trade 2 first-round picks for Nico Collins immediately. That's so easy. The dude is awesome. I feel so bad for him, stuck in this trash offense with an inaccurate quarterback, an awful play caller. If you saw his catch last week, I was like, oh, that has to be busted coverage. There's no way. And then I looked at the all 22, and he just routed his guy into the 5th dimension. Dude is so talented. Yeah. Two first round picks and that is an amazing cure for I was talking to Max Toscano too, one of my favorite analysts. Remember the tight ends on Substack. He's saying that Patrick Mahomes, I don't know that I agree with this, by the way, but he's saying, I really respect his opinion. Patrick Mahomes this season and last season is the best quarterbacking he's ever seen. It's just so hard to tell because the receiving core is so bad and the offensive line play is so bad.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously one of the best to ever do it. All right. Somebody want to know about, do you have any thoughts on Jameson Williams? You willing to go there at all?
I'm not, just because the first read target share is so bad. He's a guy who can like get 100 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets. He has a great offense, all that. But, for better or worse, I tend to just kind of write off those guys.
Let's start with the Dart neighbors. Dart neighbors. What do we want to do around Dart and neighbors? We doing bringbacks from the Chargers? Are we doing Scattaboo in the lineup? What do you think?
I think the way to do it, I don't know that this is right, but my instinct to tell me is O'Marion Hampton.
Done.
And then maybe Herbert lineups are. Can you make a lineup where you lock button slot team? Damn, we do. We got a $20. The first 3 weeks, we got $0 in super chats. We're going crazy right now.
I mean, lock button slot demon for one lineup just means play slot demon. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that for you. Appreciate the super chat.
Right. You want to do it in this lineup?
We could. Yeah, why not? Why not just play him right in this lineup?
I appreciate that, Matt. I feel like we have to give Matt a cut if we win the Millie.
If we played Kirk for him and then we win the Millie, we'll give you.
We'll split it 3 ways with you, Matt.
3. I mean, we're giving him a third of the lineup. We're giving him a third of the cut if we win.
Dude, he paid for the full thing.
Okay. All right. That's true. Fair.
Yo, that's a new rule. If anyone wants to throw down 20, we'll give you a third of the winning Millie lineup.
All right. Running backs.
Alexander Bayer, Slut Demon is my ex's nickname.
That's pretty good. Genty, you sounded like you were more and more in on Genty plus Vegas defense.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Then I think we'll have a lot of money left over. Let's see.
We're missing all of my favorite pay up running backs though. But I mean, we still have that flex.
We can get one in the flex, yeah. Laporta tight end.
Yeah. Can you scroll down though?
Scroll down.
Like I'm not seeing. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. There. Okay. Now we have 7,500 left over if we want to play. But we can't play Puka and McCaffrey now.
We can play Puka and Taylor.
Maybe. What's Taylor's price? Not quite.
James Cook. I love James. Dude, James Cook's fucking awesome. Yeah.
There we go. Look at that. Lineup. Jackson Dart with Malik Neighbors. Bring back of O'Marion Hampton. We've got Ashton Genty with the Raiders defense. Christian Kirk, Puka Nacua, Sam Laporta, James Cook. We're fading the Bears chalk and going against
Caleb Williams meltdown game. Softest quarterback in the league. He scores a touchdown on the first drive because Ben Johnson scripted it, and then throws a pick six, and then sack fumble, and then he just totally implodes from there. Raiders defense score 40 points.
The rookie running backs finally ready to emerge. O'Marion Hampton, Ashton Genty. Look at that beauty. All right, let's do another. Oh, I just submitted the same lineup again, I think. Didn't mean to do that. All right, let's draft a team.
So if we went all the way down, let's go all the way up to Lamar.
Lamar Jackson. Who do we want to pair Lamar with?
Oh, Zay? That's a good question. I think it has to be Zay. This is a stat I keep talking about. It's in the everything report. I'm gonna butcher it, but something like in his last 20 games, in his bottom 50% of games, he averages 5 fantasy points per game, and then his top 33% of games, he averages like 26 DraftKings fan. So he's just like the ultimate GPP play. So he's always my lean with Lamar lineups.
All right. Do you want a single stack or do you want to throw Andrews in too?
I want a single stack, but I want to throw in Taekwon.
Okay. Throwing in Taekwon. 5,300 left per player.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was gonna say we can go heavy on the stack just because I could see them, you don't want to go 1-3. This is 2 really good teams. They're gonna treat it like it's the AFC Championship. But let's just keep it like this for now.
Okay. Running backs, do we want to go with the McCaffrey lineup? I mean, it's kind of tough because we've got Lamar pretty extensive, but Thornton.
So Tremble or Strange, we'll go cheap tight end.
All right. Yeah. Let's go Tremble. We go cheap at wide receiver and get some more of the expensive running backs.
Let's do CMC or CMC or Taylor or Saquon or James Cook again.
Let's see if we can fit in CMC and Saquon. We'd have 43.33 left per player. That includes a flex and a
we didn't
defense.
talk defense. I like I said, I actually spent some time on defense this week. I mean, 5 minutes, but Eagles, Ravens, Bears, Bills, I think are some of the sneaky defenses.
Okay. Eagles,
so we
Ravens,
could do Eagles defense with Saquon here. I like that.
Yeah.
Baker down 2 offensive linemen, Chris Godwin on a snap count, no Mike Evans, dealing with a bad bicep.
Now we need. Can you
scroll down again?
Yeah.
Hey, all right, Jeff's back in. All right, Jeff, you could chime in if you want anyone else on this lineup.
I don't think, as the person who's providing the bankroll and giving up my own lineups, I don't know if I love this setup yet. Well, I'll have to think about. We can do it. We can do it for this week.
I'm going to throw you half of the super chats, of course.
All right.
Is that a Paul Wall, Avi? By the way, because my friend Ari is friends with Paul Wall.
I don't know who Paul Wall is.
He's a famous rapper, I think, but he also sells grills, like for your teeth.
Okay. Cool.
Paul?
Are we waiting for Jeff to throw in a player here? I mean, we've only got 4,200 left per player. No, we got 5,000. No, never mind. If we play a $4,100 receiver, and we could play Trey Tucker, but then we're just like $100 short of Omar and Hampton.
No. Let's do a Dunze or Olave. You can pick between them and just see what the options are.
If we go Olave, then we have enough for
Chris Rodriguez.
C-Rod.
All right. What about Odunze? And again, I like the pun, so I'm fine with a D-Rob, AD Mitchell, Parker Washington, Christian Kirk again.
Yeah.
D-Rob. Parker.
What is D-Rob's price?
35. Parker's a perfect 37, but I think Diami probably plays.
Do you like that? DeMarcus Robinson there?
Yeah.
All right. Deal. All right. So that one's Lamar Jackson with Zay Flowers, bring back of Tyquan Thornton, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Rome Odunze, Tommy Tremble, DeMarcus Robinson, Eagles defense, ship it. There we go. Another Millie maker. That now we're suddenly splitting 3 ways. So, all right, let's do one more lineup, and then we're out of here.
Yeah. By the way, Jeff wanted us to play Bryson.
Oh God,
Bryson Tremaine, but it's too late now.
Too late now. What's our third stack?
So we went expensive, we went cheap. Let's go middle price.
We could do the. I guess we don't know if Devontae Adams is playing, so maybe we don't want to do the Rams double.
Well, like I said, you can do Rams double without the quarterback. I think that's very live.
But we don't know if Devontae Adams is going to play, so that's the.
No, he's going to play.
Oh, do you want to do the Rams? Do you want to do like Daniel Jones?
I mean, it worked for like I said, he was a lock button play for me. So it's really just this hamstring, and like I said, Edwin's like maybe he loses 5 routes. So let's do the Rams double.
Yeah, Rams double. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams.
Let's throw Taylor onto it. You can play Daniel Jones, but I think let's go somewhere else. You want to do? Can we do Purdy, CMC?
This is a real can you question because we only have 34.50 left now.
Parker, Washington. Strange, maybe Strange instead of Parker, Washington.
Well, let's this might be a double tight end.
No, we got what am I saying? D-Rob is in play as well.
Yeah. Do we want to take out Parker Washington or leave him in there?
Take him out. Can we make
oh yeah, D-Rob because he's part of the stack.
Yeah. Can we get Pearsall? Is there any way to fit Pearsall?
No, not without taking somebody else out.
What about Strange to Tremble and just go uncorrelated?
We still won't be able to fit Pearsall. Yeah. Well, if we go the cheapest defense, Saints, or we could go Browns, I guess. I mean, if we go all the way to Saints and then we go, what is Pearsall's price? If we go all the way down to Tremble, I think we're still short. We're only 100 short of Pearsall at that point.
All right. All right. Let's take Purdy out, and let's take CMC out, and let's take D-Rob out, and let's take Tremble out, and Pearsall too, probably. But no, actually leave Pearsall in. You want to do Mariota Debo? You want to do Dart uncorrelated? Naked.
Let's go Mariota Debo.
Okay.
Something different. $48.50. So we need. Oh, we got tight end there though. So we go cheap tight end.
Yeah, Tremble or Strange. You get a mini with Strange.
Let's start with Tremble and see what we can get in there, and then so not quite enough. Yeah, if we do Tremble, not quite enough for James Cook. So
we got Bucky.
Yeah, we get Bucky.
Do we want exposure to the Ascot on at least one of these?
Probably
not. We're good.
We're good with it. Okay. All right. So we got Mariota stacked up with Deebo Samuel. No bringbacks from Atlanta. We have the Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams double with Jonathan Taylor bringback for a secondary correlation there. Bucky Irving, Ricky Pearsall, Tommy Tremble, Saints defense. Book it. There you go. Three lineups made. Pretty
hey, this was so much fun. Like really shout out to chat. Thanks to chat. This is one of our more interactive shows.
Matt's, do you see Matt's super chat? I don't think I saw Matt's. This no splits. Appreciate the content.
We'll Matt. We'll have to figure out taxes for you, Neil, because that's not fair.
You got to stop giving away like $170,000 of mine without consenting me. I mean, what is this? All right.
Yeah, there's an asterisk on whatever we said. So
yeah.
After taxes, maybe. If Neil's
always a good time. Always appreciate you, Scott. Appreciate the audience. Scott, what else do you have coming up for the rest of the weekend?
I'll be in Discord. I'll do this show with Johnny tomorrow morning. The link for that will be in Discord tomorrow morning. And
all right, check out.
Yeah. What about you,
Johnny? Yeah. So on the Fantasy Points channel, I will be back. I'll have my article coming out tomorrow for Sunday Night Football. I'm also on my own channel. I'll be putting something out for the morning game. The Vikings are playing the Steelers in the morning, so I'll be doing some kind of a showdown breakdown for the morning game. Have to do that tonight. Also going to be I've been doing a video about Run the Sims, how I'm using them. So I'll have that out at some point this afternoon as well. And then tomorrow just back with the regular showdown content for Sunday and Monday. That's it. All right. Appreciate you, Scott. Remember to use OTB15 to get 15% off on any Fantasy Points package. Please do like the video and subscribe to this channel if you are not already subscribed. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.